Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Quirk Chronicles. Today, we got a what if that flips the script on hero training in the most intense way possible. This is what if Deku was trained by a vengeful samurai spirit. An MHA alternate story that redefines what it means to be a hero. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic what ifs. Alright, let's dive straight into the story. Izuku woke with a start, groaning in sheer agony as he tried to get up from the ground. It was dark out now. His clothes were ripped and covered in burn marks and holes. Izuku, do they hate me that much? Izuku mumbled to himself, his body staggering as he finally got to his feet. He felt something dark in his stomach. A twisting feeling of anxious and wild emotion stormed in him that made him want to scream. Izuku, I feel weird, he said before slowly and on weak knees made his way home. The park was fairly close to the Yagi's home. Izuku, that's right. I'm not their kid. I'm not a Yagi. I'm Izuku. Izuku's voice rang out silently in the empty air, his body limping towards the house, unknowingly realizing that his appearance was slowly changing. His hair slowly changed to black, the unruly curls becoming straight strands of soft and smooth hair. Well done, Izuku. You finally let me in. Izuku heard the voice but barely registered it. His mind was swirling with thoughts that didn't belong to him, but he welcomed them. He saw flashes of a battle in his mind, blood being strewn across the ground until the ground ran red. Were these memories? Visions? Izuku couldn't tell, but he wasn't bothered by these images at all. It was almost like a familiar tug at his brain, like when you remember the name of a song that has bugged you for weeks. What was happening? As he made his way down the street, he saw someone with a flashlight going towards him. Izuku. The person's voice was girly, one he recognized. Seeing her instantly caused something to rage within the young preteen. What was this powerful emotion? Izuku ignored the girl and continued limping, completely passing the one he was supposed to call his sister. She actually had the gall to be concerned, knowing full well what she did. Izumi. Izuku, where were why? Put this wench in her place, Izuku. Tell her the truth of your emotions. Following the voice's advice, he decided to do just that. Izuku, where do you think you bitch? Izumi, what? Izuku turned to face his sister, angry raging in his once kind eyes, making his sister step back in fear. His eyes that were once a joyful green were becoming red, a rich red that resembled the murky sheen of blood. Izuku, do you think I could have gotten up after what you and those monsters did to me? Izuku shouts, making Izumi flinch. She's never heard Izuku shout before, let alone curse. Izuku, why? Tell me why. The street lamps near them began to flicker, a low humming filling the air. Izumi, we wanted you not be a hero. You can be a hero is without a quirk. Izuku's eyes seemed to be set ablaze. Izumi falling to her knees as it felt like a sword was pressed up against her neck, the icy sharp edge threatening to draw blood. Izuku, heroes? Heroes? You guys think you're heroes? I listened and gave up in being one, but you never listened when I tried to tell you. I was training so I could perhaps become an athlete, a baseball player, or a track star for the Olympics. Those don't require quirks. Izumi's eyes widened. He gave up? Izumi, Izuku, didn't you even notice that I got rid of all my hero stuff? It disgusts me looking at them. Looking at you, you fucking villain. Izuku sneers. Izumi felt like her heart was just crushed. She was just called a villain by her own brother, one who used to look up to her and her quirk. Very good, Izuku. Unleash that anger that has been festering within your very soul. Release it and make it into your instrument for justice. Izuku, I hate you. I hate that stupid all-might sperm donor. I hate that worthless incubation chamber I have to call a fucking mother. And I hate every single one of you fuckers. You are almost there, Izuku. You are accepting your true feelings. Nothing now shall blind your sight on your goals. I shall lead you down the path of glory and power, where your feet shall be inscribed into history. Now, call my name, and we shall become partners against the unjust. Izuku, I am here, Izuku. You shall never be alone ever again. Izuku's body unleashed his anger, his eyes facing the sky as his mouth opened to shout a name that will forever change his life. Izuku, you shit son. Izumi was flung backwards into a street lamp as the air surrounding Izuku became alive, energy rapidly expelling from his body while a silhouette began forming above him in an unearthly light. Booming filled the dark streets. The figure forming above Izuku was ghostly, clad in what appeared to be armor that samurai donned on eras ago. The man's body was radiating a black, tinted red aura, his mere presence. "I'm finally back to having a purpose." Izumi stared up at the figure in fear. A ghost. A ghost was there right in front of her. She froze as its eyes fell on her, before turning its attention on Izuku. "Izuku, I'm pleased you finally let me in. For years, I have watched you suffer at the hands of these vile children and unworthy men and women. In return for entry, I shall become your shield and mentor. My vengeance shall be your blade. Do you accept?" Izuku stared up at the ghostly samurai. Yoshitsune, an orphan child who grew to become one of the more renowned samurai for his feats and battle prowess. He carved himself a path of glory, but took his own life due to the betrayal of his own blood. Izuku felt a connection to this battle-forged warrior. "Izuku, I accept. Very well. I am Yoshitsune, and I shall help carve out a bright future for you." The spirit soon began turning into mist, circling around Izuku's very body before vanishing. Izuku looked around, noticing that his injuries were gone as well, before feeling a weight settle on his waist. Looking down, he saw a sword in. Izuku slowly put a hand on the grip of the sword. It felt right, as if it were made for him. It was a simple katana blade with no discernible features, yet he can feel it was different. It held power, strength, and years of battle. "Izumi. Izuku." Izuku's gaze darts over to Izumi, silencing her. Why was she still there? It doesn't matter to Izuku. He's going to stop being afraid. "Izuku, never speak my name. You are unworthy of it," Izuku said in a cold tone, shocking his sister. He sounded different. Experienced, that was the only way she can describe it now. He looked so different now. His hair was black and straight, his eyes had become red, and his freckles were gone, leaving Izuku having no resemblance to the Yagis. "Izumi!" What was that commotion? A blond man had rushed outside after hearing the laughing and high winds. Tashinori Yagi, aka the failure of a father. "Izumi. Dad, something's wrong with Izuku. He has a ghost." "Toshi, Izuku." Izuku turned to face the one he will never call his father again. His once green eyes had dulled to a dark red, eyes burning with cold anger. Tashinori had never seen his son look so angry. "Izuku, I'm heading inside," Izuku stated before heading towards the house, not even looking at them. The man tried to stop Izuku, going to scold him for being out so late. "Hold it, young man. Where have you begun?" He pulled his hand back as a large slash appeared across his palm. Had Izuku done that? But how? It was too fast. Tashinori looked at his son's retreating figure. "Yoshitsune, you shall not touch my partner." The ghostly voice of the dead samurai filled the air, shocking the man and scaring Izumi. "Yoshitsune, should you try, I will cut you down. I am Yoshitsune, and I am Izuku's vengeance. Those who made him suffer will fall to his blade, be it man, woman, or child. Be warned." The voice slowly vanished as Izuku got inside the building. Izumi was trembling now, slowly following her father in as he had to go in to patch up his hand. Inside, Inko was leaning against the counter, a slash on her arm as she tried to stop the bleeding with a hand towel. "Tashinori! Inko!" He rushed to his wife, checking to see if she was okay. "Inko, Izuku, he came home looking different, and when I went to go ask why he was gone for so long, he knows something slashed my arm. He didn't even see if I was okay." Izumi felt her heart break. Did they matter so little to Izuku now? "Izumi, he called me a villain." "Inko, WI?" Izumi took a deep breath and began explaining everything that she and the twins had done to Izuku. It certainly didn't end well when she was suddenly slapped. "Inko, we gave you all that attention and training so you could use it on your brother?" "Izumi, I'm the bad one? You ignored him for years." That shut her mother up real quick. The family soon came to terms that they fucked up big time, and with Yoshitsune there was no way for them to get close enough to even try and fix it. The next day, Izuku sighed as he looked at himself in the mirror, taking in the sight of his new appearance. His once green, unruly curls had become dark strands of black hair that were perfectly straight. They were soft and silky to the touch, while Izuku admittedly liked. His eyes were red now as well. The murky sheen of blood-red pupils stared back at him. His skin had gotten paler as well, resembling more like Yoshitsun. He has noticed he had gotten taller as well. His clothes were filled out more due to sudden lean muscles appears on him atop of what his normal training was. As he made his way downstairs, he completely ignored the looks of his so-called family, ignoring the plate of food that was left at a spot on the table for him and the words that were being said. Inko, Izuku, aren't you going to eat? Izuku, no. He replies in a simple manner before plucking an apple from the fruit platter and headed out the door, leaving two dejected parents behind. Izumi. Izuku, wait. Izumi called as she ran out the door, hoping that she could catch up with Izuku to walk with him to school. The fact that Yoshitsun hasn't cut her meant that she wouldn't be in harm's way, right? Author, you dumb bitch. Izuku was heading into the school, the sword on his hip and his eyes focused and unwavering. His usual bullies parted the way for him as his eyes promised pain should they even attempt anything. As he got to class, he was followed shortly after by Izumi, who was panting and trying to catch her breath. Did she really run the entire way? Izumi. WWH, why didn't you wait for me? Izuku. Why would I bother wait for you? I see nothing in it for me to wait for my villain, he said openly, causing the entire class to freeze. Izumi stood there, eyes wide before tears began going down her face. Izuku, if you're going to cry, do it above the plants near the window, so your tears will at least be useful for something. That comment shook the rest out of their stupor. Two blondes got up, Katsumi and Katsuki Bakugo. Katsuki. What the fuck, Deku? Katsumi went to console Izumi while glaring at Izuku, who only stared right back. The twins almost flinched under his glare as his meek self was long gone. Izuku. What does villain number 2 and 3 want? Katsuki wasted no time in charging at Izuku, not getting very far as a slash appeared on his cheek, sending him crashing to the floor. Student. W, what just happened? Student 2. Was that Izuku? Student 3. He didn't move. The teacher decided to walk in and saw Izuku at his desk unbothered while Katsumi was pressing a now very red handkerchief to Katsuki's cheek. Teacher. What happened in here? Student. Bakugo tried to attack Izuku and a cut formed on his cheek. Student 3. We think it's Izuku, but we didn't see him move. Teacher. Izuku. He then noticed the sword. Teacher. Izuku. Who gave you the right to bring a weapon to school? Izuku. The same people who allow dangerous quirks in schools. The teacher went to retort, but saw it was true. Quirks were more dangerous than any gun or blade these days. Teacher. Regardless, hand it over to me now. Izuku kept his face neutral, the teacher almost backing off since he's never seen the usual boy look so confident. Izuku, why don't you try taking it? I'm warning you. The sword is alive and will attack anyone that it caused me to suffer. That scared everyone in class, staring at Izuku in fear. The teacher merely scoffed and advanced on Izuku to grab the sword. Teacher, GHH. The teacher winced as he brought his hand back, blood dripping from the back of his hand as a shallow cut formed. Izuku, what did I say? Come close, you get cut. Be thankful Yoshitsun didn't aim for your neck or wrist. He is a spirit who is quite skilled with a blade and has taken many lives. Everyone in class didn't know how to react or what to do. The sword was alive, and a slash that is too fast for the eye to see cuts you if you try to get near him. Izuku, so do keep that in mind because from here on out, I won't take any attitude lying down. I will be learning how to use a sword myself, and should you try to harm me, I will not hesitate to cut you down. Izuku said coldly. The teacher backed up, and everyone suddenly realized just how fucked they were. Izuku, are you going to start today's lesson, or just waste everyone's time? School ended, and Izuku was already out of the classroom and school building, heading towards the gates. He was planning to head to the forest to be trained by Yoshitsun in how to handle a sword. Izuku/Deku. Izuku halted his steps and mentally sighed. Not even bothering to turn around, he replied to them. Izuku, what do you villains want? Katsuki, stop fucking calling us that. Izuku, you know very well that all your actions are the definition of villainy. Katsumi, fuck off Deku, what do you know? Izuku, villain number 1, tell them. Izumi, Izuku, tell them. Izumi flinched at the cold, uncaring tone. Izuku gave up being a hero years ago. When he was training, he just wanted to try and go into sports where quirks weren't allowed to be used. Katsumi, what? Izuku, of course you egomaniacs won't remember a thing outside of your own inflated egos. The Olympics, basketball, track and field, those all don't require quirks, but they do require you to be physically fit. Katsuki. So all that time you just wanted to go into sports. Izuku. Yes, but you all never even tried to notice. I sold all my hero merch to get a membership at a gym, a boxing coach, and perhaps my own place. The three looked at Izuku's back. Izuku. Of course, now I have no choice but to become a hero once more. Katsumi. Just because you got a spirit and a sword. Izuku. That can slice you in two before you even realize it? Yes. Izuku then turned to face the three with his cold red eyes. Izuku. Because I realized that with you three and those spoiled experiments called Todoroki twins, the world will need a real hero. Fame, glory, money that should not matter. Izumi. What would you considering being a hero group with us then? We would be unstoppable. We could be number one like you always dreamed. Katsuki. Fucking hate to say it, but your sword would make us much stronger heroes. Better fucking take the offer, Deku. The three flinched. Izuku. Ranking? Is that all you care about? How short-sighted. Never try to get me to join such a worthless little group of future villains. And with that, Izuku walked off, his mind branding those three and the Todoroki twins as villains. 3 years had passed since Izuku became partners with Yoshitsune, and merely saying that Izuku changed was an understatement. During those few years, Izuku had learned and mastered almost everything he could while under Yoshitsune's teachings. Along with his skills, Izuku also changed in terms of author. This is actually the only straight black hair, red eyes pick that works for Izuku's new appearance. He had major efficiency with Iaido, a sword style that utilizes drawing the sword from its sheath and striking in all one fluid motion. Learning this skill helped improve Izuku's reaction time and speed to above inhuman levels. His sword swings and slashes becoming too fast for anyone to see unless their quirks or trained mind allow it. The next sword style is Yagyu Shinkaguryu, or as Izuku likes to name it, Disarming Blade. The style helped Izuku become fluid in his movements, almost becoming like water, and helped improve on not making unnecessary steps or actions to help conserve stamina. But don't think that all his skills come from his blade alone. He is also excellent in boxing, but moved on to mastering jiu-jitsu. His conditioned body made him a feared, yet respected individual. But back to the story. Izuku was somewhat looking forward to going to school, as it was indeed the last day of that stupid junior high. Sitting in class, Izuku was barely paying attention to anything the teacher was saying. Last day of school, work studies, gonna try and be heroes, blah blah blah. Teacher. Oh, that's right. You three are gonna go to Udetta, right? The teacher addressed the three people who Izuku had practically cut out of his life. The Bakugo twins and Izumi all nodded, getting a cheer around the class. They had gotten stronger. The Bakugo twins cut their shitty attitude down by a bit, but were still pretty foul-mouthed and had minor tempers. Izumi had changed completely, being like the twins, but without being foul-mouthed. Katsuki. That's right, Teach. The four of us are going to become the best hero group in Japan. Student. The four of you? Katsumi. We mean Izuku, of course, damn extra. The students all looked over at Izuku, who was looking out the window, smiling slightly as he saw a blue jay outside, making a nest in a tree. Teacher. Izuku. Please pay attention. Izuku. Saizya teach? Izuku asked in a monotone voice, looking at the teacher with uninterested eyes. Teacher. You're going to apply at Udetta too, right? Izuku. I have to. You really think I'd go just to join those three? I could care less. I'll at least meet decent people there, unlike this Bada Barrel school and its students and staff. Izuku said coldly, causing everyone in the room to flinch at his cold but true words. Izuku seemed even more annoyed since many of the girls and some guys tried to ask Izuku out on a date multiple times despite what they did to him in the past. Of course, Izuku rejected them instantly. Izuku. Udetta has brought out some of the most inspirational heroes like Ingenium, Endeavor, and 13, decent and worthy heroes. Which means I'll be treated well there, with an actual education. Before anyone could reply, the bell that signaled the end of the day sounded, students all getting up with their belongings. Izuku was the first one out of the school, holding his school bag as he was already making his way towards his usual training spot. Yoshitsune, Izuku, you should go check the supermarket first. I saw a woman reading a flyer that there's a sale going on. 80% off for 2 hours after 3 o'clock. Izuku, 80%? Guess missing 1 day of training won't be so bad. Izuku mumbles, a little excited. Heading down the street, going towards the supermarket, he was pleased to see that there wasn't a line. Izuku left the supermarket in a very good mood. He had enough food to last him a couple weeks now. As he was walking back towards the house, he couldn't wait to leave. He was stopped when an explosion rocked the area. Looking in the sky, there was smoke billowing from a few streets down. Izuku, I'll have to go that way, won't I? You should, son. Unfortunately, yes. I believe you know what you will find. Izuku, my day is now ruined and my disappointment is immeasurable, Izuku said with a slump of his shoulders before heading down towards the billowing smoke, the smell of burning debris riding on the winds. It didn't take long for Izuku to actually get to the street, seeing a barricade surrounded by civilians and blocked by heroes. Izuku rolled his eyes. Of course this is what he'd see. What else would he expect? Izuku, carrying his grocery bags, began weaving through the crowd in a seamless manner, like he were air moving past a field. Once he was at the front of the crowd, he rolled his eyes at what he saw. Izuku, seriously? Those two are pathetic. Izuku internally sighed as he saw the Bakugo twins captured in some sort of sludge or slime, the culprit laughing in villainous victory as he controlled the actions of the twins to use their explosive power. Near the barricade was Izumi. She was being held back by other students, warning her not to go in there. Sludge, wahaha, with this power, I can take down any hero, it boasted as more debris was blown everywhere. Author, I'm making the heroes more competent in this story. Backdraft, damn it, if only the fire wasn't spreading so fast. I could thin down that sludge. Backdraft swore, Izuku looking at the fur rescue hero, impressed. That kind of thinking gave Izuku respect for the hero. Death Arms was there as well, trying to keep civilians back, using his body to shield the people behind him from blasted rocks and concrete. Death Arms. If only I can move, I could aim at the eyes. But with all the debris and blasts, I have to keep the citizens safe. The sludge's body was immune to physical attacks, but the eyes were the only seemingly tangible part of its body. MT Lady. Sorry, Death Arms. I would help, but the buildings are becoming unstable. I can't move, or they might collapse. The giantess heroine apologized. Her voice is strained as he was using her arms and hands to keep debris and buildings from collapsing. Kamui Woods. Same here. I'm doing all I can to reinforce the structure. There are still civilians who can't get over here due to the villain. Izuku heard enough. Soon, Death Arms blinked as his hands caught bags of groceries. He looked around to see Izuku hopping over the barricade. Death Arms. Hey kid, come back. Someone stop him. Kamui Woods. I'll tshit. As Kamui Woods tried to catch Izuku, more buildings began to crumble, forcing him to focus on keeping the building up. Backdraft, kid, come back. Izuku. It's okay. You guys have your hands full. Please focus on your task and allow me to handle this. Izuku called back to the heroes. Despite the explosions, the roaring flames, and the clamoring of the public, Izuku's voice rang out into the air clearly. The pros all looked on as Izuku had on hand on his blade as he approached the sludge villain. Sludge. Looks like someone wants to die. The sludge began firing explosions at the samurai boy, the pros all exclaiming for him to come back. However, the boy kept walking at a slow pace. The explosion seemed to not be able to hit their mark. MT Lady. How is he doing that? Sloth. Dumb brat. Stay still and die. The sludge began getting desperate. Firing attack of attack. Explosions and sludge tendrils flew towards Izuku, aiming to maim the boy. Before any attack could hit, Izuku had vanished. Kamui Woods. Where did he go? MT Lady Kid. Izuku. Stop yelling. I'm behind him. Sludge, what? The sludge turned around as saw that Izuku was indeed behind the villain already. How? How did he get there without noticing? How fast is he? Izuku. Aido, the sword style where one attacks when the sword is unsheathed, making for light-speed strikes. You didn't notice I cut you yet, have you? The sludge was about to report before sections of its sludge were severed from its body, perfectly getting the twins out, which Izumi used her quirk to quickly pull them in. Sludge. You damn brat. You made me lose my meat as shield. Why is it so cold? Izuku straightens up, slowly sheathing his sword. Izuku, do you feel it? The hands of those you've killed? How their anguish and death slowly drags your body in their ghostly hands. The sludge villain's body began to freeze slightly, the ice coming in patches that resembles hands before the ice expands to coat the sludge in it. Izuku, Aido sword style, dead man's walk. With that, Izuku sheathed his katana, and the sludge villain was encased in ice, his movements halting before the ice shattered, knocking the villain unconscious. The sudden blast of cold air improved the conditions of the fire, Backdraft now easily putting them out. Civilian. That was freaking awesome. The civilians all cheered for Izuku's incredible display. Kemui Wood sighed in relief as his wooden arms finally made decent foundations to support to crumbling buildings, while MT Lady finally was able to seize down. Izuku walked up to Death Arms and took his bags of groceries back. Izuku, thank you for holding my groceries. Death Arms, no prob, no wait, hold on. What you did was very reckless. Kamui Woods, you could have gotten injured. MT Lady, exactly. I mean, don't get us wrong. I think you were badass, but that was dangerous. The three pros all stood in front of Izuku while Backdraft finally managed to put out the remaining fires. Izuku, I had to do it. You guys were all doing something important. You could have beaten the villain, but with the surrounding environment and the safety of the citizens being priority, you had to think of that first. Backdraft, that's true, but Izuku, but nothing. You were keeping the public safe. With the debris and explosions, you made sure the civilian were safe, which should be a hero's #1 priority. I deeply apologize for endangering myself, but you guys needed help. Kamui Woods and Death Arms sighed before nodding. Death Arms, look, just this once we'll look the other way. While I don't like the fact a teenager endangered himself and breaking the law to stop a villain, I have to respect that your intentions were good. Kamui Woods, I agree. Could we know your name? Izuku. My name is Izuku. No real surname to be proud of. MT Lady. So, how old are you? Backdraft. MT Lady. Izuku. I'm only 15. MT Lady. Well, I don't mind waiting a few years. She adds in with a wink before she was hoisted up by her waist and laid over Death Arm's shoulder. Death Arm. Don't mind her. She's lonely. Anyway, you did good, kid. I'm looking forward to you becoming a pro in the future. Kamui Woods. As do I. Are you injured? Izuku. Nope, but I do need to get home and prepare dinner. I'm hungry. Backdraft. Laughs all right. Thanks again for the assist, Izuku. With that, the four heroes met up with the first responder teams to help with clearing the area and checking any injured to see if anyone needed it, with Izuku ignoring the three he left behind. Yoshitsun, you seem to be in a better mode, Izuku. Is it those pros that has you feeling so high-spirited? Izuku couldn't deny it. He actually felt like he witnessed a real hero's job take place in person. Izuku, they were actual heroes back there. Any one of them could have ignored the citizens and take the villain out for fame, but chose to protect the people instead. That's what I want to be. That kind of hero. Yoshitsun, I agree. Their spirits were determined and just... I hope they stay that way. Izuku, so do I. As Izuku made his way home, he stopped when he felt a powerful source nearby. Thanks to his training, his senses were improved to detect the slightest of noises and movement. And thanks to that, the imposing aura was getting was somewhat staggering. Izuku, what is that? Yoshitsun. Izuku, it is coming behind you. Izuku whirled around, his hands dropping the groceries, and went to grab the handle of his sword. Instead of meeting face to face with an imposing villain or some sort of unearthly power, he saw a young blonde teenager that seemed to live out in the in-country. Izuku. Yoshitsun. What can you see? Yoshitsun. I cannot look at him. Izuku, why not? Is something wrong? Yoshitsun. His spirit, it's shining like an afternoon sun. It is almost blinding. Izuku got out of his fighting stance and sighed. Yoshitsun, being a ghost, is able to see the aura of those around him, seeing what they are truly like. Oh. Hi, the teenage blonde greeted as he ran over to Izuku, stopping a few feet away from him. Izuku, can I help you with something? I was actually wondering if you know a place where I can eat. I haven't eaten anything for a couple days. Izuku blinked, processed the information before it sunk in. Izuku, are you crazy? Izuku exclaimed, his eyes wide as he heard that the blonde hadn't eaten anything in over 48 hours. Without letting any room for arguments, Izuku picked his bags back up. Izuku, you're coming back with me. Huh? Izuku, not eating for 2 days. I ought to smack you. Izuku mumbled as he led the blonde over to the Yagi household. As he entered, he was thankful the house was void of unneeded people before leading the blonde up to his room. Izuku, okay, you go wash up in my bathroom and I'll make us something to eat. But why? Izuku, you're filthy. Go take a shower and I'll have the food done by then. Now go. Izuku scolded the teen who obliged and vanished into the bathroom. Yoshitsune, in my years of knowing you, never have I seen act like such a mother tiger. Izuku, it isn't that Yoshitsune. It reminded me of when I couldn't eat. I would be pretty hypocritical of me to deny someone food. Yoshitsune, I still think you are a mother tiger. Izuku, oh bite me. Yoshitsune, you are well aware I am capable of doing so, correct? I can manifest into a solid form. Izuku, it's called sarcasm. As Izuku was cooking, utilizing an electric stove and griddle to cook, he decided on something quick and filling, an omelette souffle. Quick, easy, and after a few minutes came and went, the sound of a shower shutting off was heard from Izuku's bathroom, followed by with the door opening. There, now clean and towel drying, was the blonde that Izuku may or may not have kidnapped off the streets for food. Thank for the shower. Izuku, don't mention it. And here, Izuku had gotten up and handed the blonde clothes of his. As the still unnamed teen got dressed, Izuku began placing plates on his coffee table for himself and the blonde. Izuku, here, you eat, and then you can explain to me what your situation is. Izuku tells the blonde, who gave no arguments as he sat down and began eating, taking time to enjoy the delicious meal. Izuku looked at the blonde country male and waited for him to finish eating, which definitely didn't take that long. After setting his fork down and releasing a satisfied sigh, the blonde looked at our resident samurai. Thanks for the meal. I'm Kenji Miyazawa. Can you explain to me why you haven't eaten in over 48 hours? And why you're in the city? Kenji, I love coming to the city. Every day is like an adventure for someone like me. But a couple days ago, I ended up losing my coin bag and couldn't find a way to get food. Izuku blinked and sighed, a hand rubbing his temple slightly. Izuku, you could have gone to the police station or possibly gone back home. Why stay? Kenji, if I left, I wouldn't have been able to find you. I saw what you did to that villain. You were like a legendary swordsman, Yoshitsune. That's because I am one. Izuku smiled slightly at Yoshitsune's impute, but looked over at Kenji. Izuku, why were you looking for me? I find it hard to believe it was just because of the slime villain. Kenji, nope, that's it. Izuku, Kenji, I'd like to be friends. Someone as cool and strong as you plus knows how to be respectful to my favorite heroes? No way I'd miss the chance. Izuku, so, you want to be friends because I did the right thing, essentially? Kenji, yep. Izuku, Yoshitsune, what do you think? Yoshitsune, I say go for it, Izuku. Kenji here is outside of city. His spirit is pure and bright, and he seems to have taken a liking towards you. This is your chance to get a real friend. Izuku couldn't deny that the thought was very comforting. A chance to have a genuine friend. Izuku, all right, we can be friends. Call me Izuku. Kenji, all right. Call me Kenji then. Izuku held a hand out which Kenji shook very vigorously, the samurai taking note at how powerful and strong his hands felt. Izuku, could I ask you something? What's your quirk? Kenji, huh? Oh, my quirk is called Berserk. It makes my body and strength much stronger than any normal strength quirk. When in a battle, if my strengths get tested to its limits, my quirk adapts and gives a permanent boost to my base strength. Izuku, that is one impressive quirk. No drawbacks? Kenji, I just get sleepy after a huge fight. I either need to sleep or eat to gain my energy back. Izuku nods and makes a mental note of that. If he and Kenji are to be friends, Izuku will train with him and perhaps together, they can become heroes. Izuku, Kenji, how would you like to train with me? I'm aiming to go to UA, and the entrance exam is in 10 months. Kenji, sure. I'm aiming to go there too. Izuku, okay. Let this be the first day of our progress towards UA. Kenji beamed and launched himself across the table to tackle Izuku to the ground, hugging him. Izuku was caught completely off guard, but managed to catch his new friend and prevent any damage to his room. This was the start of Izuku's path to heroism, and with a new and loyal companion at his side, He knows he can take on any obstacle in his path. Izuku sighed contently as he looked over all the boxes and bags containing his belongings, aside from his now stripped bed and empty desk. After having sold all his rare, All Might, and Cerebral merch, he gained a lot of money that he's been saving for a place of his own. Our resident samurai was finally leaving that house of bad memories. Luckily, he wasn't alone in this, as one of the smartest people in the world, U.A's principal, Nizu, was backing his decision. He opted to keep this decision under wraps from everyone, with Nizu agreeing with the idea. With his so-called parents and Izumi all out of the house, possibly for hours, he finally had a window of opportunity. As he tapes up the last box, he pulled out his phone and called up the contact dubbed as Rat God. After a couple rings, the line was picked up. Nizu, Izuku, I suppose your call means everything is all set? The cheerful voice filtered through the receiver. Izuku, that's right, Uncle Nizu. All my belongings are packed up. Did you manage to find an apartment? Nizu, of course. Already bought and leased under my name. I informed the apartment owner about your situation, so he'll be expecting you. Izuku, great. Also, did you tell him about Kenji? Nizu, all right, the berserk quirk user? I did inform him about you both living together, as you'll be both attending UA. Izuku, thanks, Uncle Nizu. Nizu, no problem, Izuku. I'll be over with Aizawa and a moving crew to get your stuff over to the new apartment in 10 minutes. I'll see you then. Izuku, all right, bye, Uncle Nizu. Izuku said before hanging up the call, sighing as he went to stand by his open window, looking out to the familiar sight of the city. You shit, son. Izuku, are you ready? Izuku chuckled and nodded. Izuku, yeah, I am. You know, it's strange. Despite the terrible past I had within this house, it almost hurts leaving. Even with all the pain, it was all I knew. Leaving it all behind to start a new chapter in my life just hurts, but also feels freeing. Izuku replied out loud, his smile growing as he spots a moving truck pulling into the driveway. The figure stepping out was the underground hero, Aizawa, and in his scarf was Principal Nizu. Izuku headed downstairs, opening the door and letting them in. Izuku, Uncle Aizawa, Uncle Nizu. Aizawa gave him a tired smile and ruffles the samurai's hair gently. Aizawa, ready to start a new chapter in your life? Izuku, yeah, I am. Izuku smiles. For the next half hour, Izuku, along with Aizawa, were carrying boxes and bags from his room down to the truck, loading them in. Izuku. Izuku looked back towards the sidewalk, smiling as he saw Kenji walking up. The country blonde was carrying some things in a large bag upon his back. Izuku, hey Kenji, you ready? Kenji, yep, I got all I need. I can't believe we're becoming roommates. Izuku, well, someone needs to make sure you eat on time. Kenji only replied with happy laughter and rubbing his head sheepishly. Aizawa smiled at the friendship the two had as he loaded the last box into the truck. Nizu, that seems to be everything. Aizawa, could you take them to the apartment? I'll be staying here to greet the Yagis and explain the situation. The coffee-depending hero nodded his head as he got into the driver's seat in the truck. Kenji got into one of the back seats, smiling after putting his bag in the truck. Izuku knelt down to Nizu's height and hugged the furry mammal, sighing happily. Izuku, thank you, Uncle Nizu. Thank you for helping me. Nizu chuckled and returned the hug, his small paws resting on Izuku's back. Nizu, it was the least I could do, Izuku. 8 years if you suffering alone. I wish I would have found out sooner. Izuku pulled away from the hug, smiling down at the hybrid genius before getting to his feet. Izuku, what matters is you're here now, Uncle. I'll be going now. Good luck with the Yagis. Izuku said before getting into the truck, also waving to his uncle before the moving truck pulled out of the driveway and headed down the street towards his new home. Nizu's fun. Nizu smiled before he headed into the house, closing and locking the door behind him. As his beady eyes took in the familiar interior of the house, he couldn't help but feel disgusted. Nizu, it's disgusting how evil can be hidden in plain sight. He comments to himself before heading towards the living room, climbing onto the couch and sitting on. With Izuku and company, they drove for several minutes before pulling into the parking lot of an apartment. The building itself wasn't anything grand, but by no means anything small either. Aizawa got out of the driver's seat and opened up the truck, checking to make sure nothing got jostled or damaged during the drive. Aizawa, all right, problem child, it's time to load up. I brought a trolley with us so we can load it with the boxes and bags. Nisa took the liberty of buying you a new desk and bed. Izuku nodded, climbing into the back of the truck, and began carrying out boxes and bags, passing them over to either Aizawa or Kenji to load onto the trolley. With the combined help of the three males, the process was admittedly a lot faster. This was it. It was time for Izuku and Kenji to see their new apartment. Unlocking the door, it was pushed open by an eager Kenji who wandered into the rather spacious entryway, which connects straight to the living room. The country boy stared in awe before running over to the spacious windows to check out the view. Kenji, Izuku, look, we can see you. From here. Izuku, after helping Aizawa load the trolley into the apartment, went to check out the view. And by Kenji's word, it was true. There, not too far, only about 10 minutes of walking, was Yue. Izuku, holy, there it is. Kenji, we'll be attending that school. Kenji, yep. Aizawa, you can take in the sights later. Both of you go and unpack your stuff in your rooms. A couple hours later, after finally finishing up, Izuku laid on the bed and smiled up at the ceiling. The apartment was better than he initially. Author, this is only the layout of the apartment, not an exact depiction of the rooms or such. Aizawa had left half an hour ago, having gotten a phone call from Nizu to return the truck and to meet him back at the Yagi house. Kenji was out on the terrace, enjoying the breeze and watching his city. Izuku, I wonder what Uncle Nizu is doing. Nizu's location. The Yagis all arrived back to their home, the three having gone out to do some shopping for groceries and supplies for Izuku and Izumi's preparation for Yue. Inko, I hope Izuku will like the notebooks we picked out for him. Izumi, he uses up a lot of notebooks since he filled them in so often. He'll love them, Mom. Tashinori, I hope so. Now let's go in. Tashinori stopped talking, his hand on the doorknob. Inko, sweetie, what's the matter? Tashinori, the door's unlocked. Izumi, maybe Izuku forgot to lock it if he decides to go out? Inko, no. Izuku's always been responsible, even if he doesn't speak to us. He'd never leave the door unlocked. Tashinori, after making sure no one was around, buffed up and entered the house. Inko, following with Izumi, kept behind her. Nizu, you three are finally home? Home here and take a seat. Tashinori, Nizu, I said, take a seat. The usual cheerful tone of the principal was gone, immediately filling the air around with chilling atmosphere. Nizu rarely ever gets this agitated. In a flash, all three were seated on a couch opposite of Nizu, the wild-furred mammal looking at them with unreadable eyes. Nizu, I'll be frank and not beat around the bush. Earlier today, Izuku packed his things and moved out of the house. The three went still, their eyes widening as registration of what Nizu said sunk in. Inko, Izumi, Izuku left? Tashinori, how do you know this? Nizu, I helped him do it, of course. Inko, why? Inko got to her feet, her quirk flaring as random furniture began getting covered in glowing green light. However, it stopped not moments later, much to Inko's confusion. Nizu, thank you, Aizawa. Aizawa stepped out from the shadows, his quirk activated, causing his intense intimidation to show. Tashinori, Aizawa, Nizu, where is my son? Nizu, I don't believe I have to tell you anything. Not after what Izuku told us anyways. Aizawa, and before you try to deny anything, Detective Tsukachi was there to confirm everything. The family deflated in defeat as any hope of saving face was gone. However, Izumi shook her head and looked at the principal. Izumi, Uncle Nizu, you have to help Izuku. Some weird ghost thing he took him over. Inko, that's correct. Ever since that spirit was involved, Izuku has changed. Nizu simply ignored them and sighed. Nizu, you know that is not true. Did you think that Tsukachi and I would not have questioned Yushitsun? Izumi blinked before getting to her feet. Izumi, so? Did the ghost control all of Izuku's actions? Or Izumi was hopeful. Aizawa, Yushitsun had not. He is merely there to guide and train Izuku on a path of glory, as is told us. Nizu, yes. It was quite fascinating till I had the opportunity to interview a ghost. Nizu smiled as he remembered the riveting conversation he had with the legendary samurai. Izumi sat back down, looking at her hands. So when Tashinori and Inko were cut, and Izuku showing no care for them, were those his true feelings? Inko, but why did he move away? We gave him space, and we didn't force him to do anything. Nizu, despite my distaste for what you all had done, Izuku has moved past it. However, he couldn't live in a house filled with only horrible memories and pain. He needed a fresh start, a new home built on good memories. Tashinori, he could have built new ones with us. Aizawa, always knew you were nothing but a musclehead. Yagi, you all are nothing but bad memories to him. That's it. Not a family, not a mother, not a father, and especially not a sister. Just one big bad memory he wants nothing to do with. That definitely shattered their hearts. The three suddenly losing all energy and slumping. Nizu, Aizawa, that's enough. Listen, you three. Izuku didn't tell me this to punish you all, despite my best judgment to do so. Nizu said, a smile on his face, but the warning was clear. Nizu was not someone you can go up against and win. Nizu, Izuku just wants to start over. Live a life without painful memories bringing him down. He hates you three. That's clear, but he doesn't wish misfortune to befall any of you or those twins. Aizawa, just move on like Izuku has. Despite all you have done, I still consider you my niece, Izumi. Just be better in the future and be the hero Izuku, and I know you can be. Izumi nodded her head slowly, tears running down her face, as she still had a small hope of rekindling her sibling relationship with her brother. Izumi, I'll push myself past my limits to become the hero Izuku, and I wanted to be when we were younger. Nizu, that's all we ask for. Now, it's time for Aizawa and I to go back to U.A and prepare the necessary curriculum for the entrance exams. Without anything else being said, the two left the Yagis alone in their home. Tashinori and Inko looked to their daughter, who was gripping her fist tightly. Izumi, Mom, Dad, we should move on like they suggested. If Izuku ever wants to reconnect with us, we can't force it to happen. We hurt him enough, as it is. The two heroes nodded their heads, shame filling them as they thought they could force Izuku to open up to them despite how crap they were as parents. Tashinori, you're right. Now let's all go eat, okay? The family of three headed to the kitchen, starting dinner, but eyes were on that lone chair at the end of the table that will always be empty now. 10 months later, a day before the entrance exam, Izuku jumped back as the ground exploded where he stood moments ago, the silhouette of Kenji in a crouched position seen through the dust cloud. Barely getting time to react, Izuku ducked under the chunk of earth that was thrown at him the moment he landed, the mist projectile slamming into one of the many forest trees. Yoshitsun, he certainly is not making this easy for you. Izuku, that's the whole point. Izuku smiled, sweat pouring off him as he countered a bull rush from Kenji, the blonde smiling happily as he was grabbed before getting flipped onto his back. Izuku had performed a textbook-grade jujitsu flip. Kenji, not letting up, planted both hands on the ground and, using his upper body strength, performed a donkey kick. Izuku blocked the strike with his arms, but was still sent back flying several feet before landing on his feet, panting slightly. Izuku, nice hit, Kenji. Your reaction time is a lot better now. Kenji stood up, dusting his clothes off before grinning. Kenji, thanks Izuku. Your training really helped me get better. Also, my strength is tripled to how it was 10 months ago. Izuku shook his arms, trying to get rid of the slight numbness within them. Thanks to the sparring he had with Kenji, he was getting even better at dealing with Kenji's super strength and speed. Izuku sighed and did some stretches, walking over to an old tree stump where a wrapped-up lunchbox and drinks were placed neatly on. Izuku, all right, let's take 10 and eat lunch. Kenji, all right. What you make this time? Kenji asked excitedly, running over to unwrap his lunchbox eagerly. Lifting the lid up, his eyes sparkled as he saw the contents. Izuku explained, but sweat drops as he saw Kenji already using chopsticks to dig into the food, his eyes closed while happily eating the food. Izuku, glad you like it, now chew. I don't want you choking. Kenji nodded while giving a muffled hi. Yoshitsun, Tiger Mom. Izuku grew a tick mark on his forehead as he heard the samurai's quip before continuing to eat. Swallowing the food in his mouth, Kenji beamed brightly. Kenji, Izuku, are you ready for the entrance exams tomorrow? I'm actually kind of nervous, Izuku, I admit it's a little nerve-inducing, but we're prepared for whatever they throw at us, as long as we both remember what I told you. Kenji, right. The points don't matter, but how you get them does. Izuki, that's right. It doesn't matter getting first place in terms of points, but to show the U-Data teachers we have what it takes to become heroes. Kenji Roger, Kenji exclaimed, saluting before stumbling with his bento box a little, catching it before it fell to the ground. Izuku coughed slightly, almost choking on his food at Kenji's little display of clumsiness, taking a swig of water to help the food go down smoothly. Author: okay, just to clarify, Izuku and Kenji will not be a couple. I'm not sure of adding a ship within this fanfic unlike my other one. Kenji, don't laugh. Izuku, sorry. Next day, U-Data entrance exam. Izuku stood in front of the entrance to the school, his eyes taking in the unbelievable sight before him. U-Data was right there, and he was getting the chance to show what he's got to the best hero school in Japan. Kenji was a bouncing ball of sunshine, happily staring in awe at the sight. Kenji, Izuku, come on, let's go. Izuku, go on ahead, Kenji, just give me a moment, okay? Kenji blinked and swore he saw unshed tears in Izuku's eyes. Kenji then smiled and gave Izuku a hug before running off. Izuku smiled, slapped himself on the face slightly before heading to follow Kenji. With Kenji, he was happily walking before seeing a brown-haired girl trip on one of the slightly loose bricks. In a flash, Kenji was there, holding her shoulders from the front and helping her right herself. W.O. Thank you. The girl was slightly in shock, as she didn't even see Kenji appear when he did, just feeling hands helping steady her. Kenji, no worries. Tripping before the exams would be bad luck. Now to fix this. Kenji looked at the slightly loose brick and stamped on it, causing the area around them to shake a little, startling the other exam attendees. Kenji, there we go. No more tripping. Good luck on the exam, Izuku. Izuku, wait you up, the blonde boy said as he ran off, leaving the girl there as she watched the blonde catch up with a taller black-haired boy, jumping onto his back before getting scolded by him. The blonde just laughing it off. I'd better get going too, she said, running off as well, not noticing a group of 5 people staring in shock and disbelief. In the auditorium where the written portion was happening, it was dead silent with the exception of slight scratching of pen on paper. There was a total of 3 hours to complete the exam, except for a handful of students, and among them were Izuku and Kenji, the two finishing it within the 50-minute mark. The two handed their exams in and left to wait in the debriefing area in the Fall City where the physical portion of the exam was taking place. Kenji, boah, that exam was super hard. Kenji whined, resting his head against Izuku's chest, who merely pats the blonde on the head, chuckling. Izuku, well, imagine if I had not tutored you? Kenji, no, don't even make me remember. Kenji whined slightly, pouting while Izuku laughed at him. Izuku had taken the liberty of tutoring Kenji in the past 10 months to make sure he was well prepared for the written portion of the exam. After a couple hours came and went, the area was filled again with the examinees, some looking mentally exhausted than the others. Soon, on top of a lifted platform, a man everyone knew as Present Mike was giving a debrief of the point system that would determine their entry to UA. Present Mike, all right. Welcome to physical portion of the exams, kiddos. If you all look at the pamphlet given to you, I can begin explaining the rules. First, there are 3 types of robots on the field that will give you points if deactivated or destroyed. The points they give range from 1 to 3. Second, during the exam, you cannot sabotage or interfere with other students. That means no one can attack the others. Third, excuse me. It says here on the pamphlet that there are 4 robots, but you only listed 3. Is this a mistake on U-Data's part? If so, Katsuki I. 4 eyes. If you had just read the rest. IT explains what the 4th robot and is worth 0 points. Izumi. Katsuki. Be nice. Katsuki. TCH, he is criticizing a pro hero who's a teacher at U-Data, the best damn hero school in Japan, and he thinks they made a mistake. The hell I'd let that go. Katsumi. Now SIT down, so he can continue explaining for eyes. The Todoroki twins only nodded in silent agreement, soon followed by the other students, while Izuku was surprised at that. Well, maybe they had matured after all. The blue-haired glasses character nodded, apologizing to Present Mike and taking a seat again. Present Mike, thank you. Now, since that's all covered up, the 0-pointer is worth no points, so you should all avoid it at all costs. Now, everyone will be put into one of the fake cities. After the explanation, staff were dividing the students to take different buses which will take them to their cities. Izuku smiled as he saw that Kenji was in the same city as he was. Izuku and Kenji stood amongst the crowd in front of the massive doors that led into the fake city. He saw a variety of different people around with quirks that were either obvious or unable to be guessed. Look, it's that girl from the entrance. Let's go say hi. Kenji took hold of Izuku's arm and began taking him towards the brown-haired girl before they were stopped by the glasses character from earlier. That girl looks like she's trying to focus. Are you trying to sabotage her chances of entering Udade? Izuku narrowed his eyes a little at this blatant assumption before the glasses character was grabbed as well by Kenji. Kenji, are you a friend of hers? She looks like she could use some encouragement. Let's all go together. Wait, hold on. But despite his best efforts, the guy couldn't break free of Kenji's grasp as he too was dragged over towards the girl. He looked over at Izuku, who mouthed, "Just go with it." Once to the girl, Kenji smiled brightly and tapped her shoulder, causing her to turn around. "Oh, it's you from the entrance, Kenji. Hey, you look like you needed some encouragement, so I brought my friends over." Izuku. I'm Izuku. This here is Kenji Miyazawa. Kenji? Huh? And this is... Kenji suddenly registered that he pulled a complete stranger over with him. Tanya Ida. He brought me over so we can wish you good luck on the exam, despite me not knowing either of them, Tanya said, almost exasperated at the event that happened. Oh, well, thanks. I'm Ochako, Uraraka. Kenji, nice to meet you guys. But we can definitely ace this test, so don't panic. All we gotta do is do our best and kick some robots. Izuku sighed with a smile, shaking his head. Izuku. Sorry, Kenji has a habit of being very energetic. Tenya, I do not mind. His demeanor is quite infectious and inspiring. Ochako. Aha! It's kind of like a confidence boost. Ochako added in bubbly, her earlier nerves dying off. Kenji, great. Hey, after the exams, and if we make it into Udade, let's all be friends. Izuku. And there he goes, Yoshitsun. Well, what did you expect? He's quite a likable fellow. Tenya. Yes, I would like that quite a bit. I hope to see you all in UA. Ochako, me too. Kenji. Okay, it's settled. Present Mike? Okay, everyone. Get ready. And go. The gigantic doors opened up. To the other examinees surprised, Kenji grabbed both Tenya and Ochako by the hand and ran inside with Izuku taking the lead. Ochako. Wait, but he didn't say start. Tenya. Is this cheating? The two asked as they were practically ragdolled in Kenji's grasp. Izuku. There is no start in hero work. We must always be ready to act in a moment's notice. Kenji, yup. So let's all go collect some points. Good luck, guys. Kenji lets the two go, waving goodbye to them as he and Izuku ran off in different directions. Robots now suddenly swarming the streets from the buildings. Ochako and Tenya looked to one another, nodding before jumping into the fray, ready to earn some points. Over in the observation room, teachers were all looking at the screens at the different cities to see how the examinees were faring. Within the room were Principal Nizu, Midnight, Present Mike, Eraserhead, Snipe, Ectoplasm, Cementos, Vlad King, and All Might. The number one hero stared in pride as he watched both Izumi and Izuku excel within the exam, seamlessly taking out robots and racking up points like crazy. All Might, Izuku, Midnight, we have some nice crops this year. Snipe, I agree. Each of them are able to hold their own in some way. Nizu. Not only that, but as you can see, some examinees are giving aid to the others, showing great potential in teamwork. Ectoplasm. Some posse's extraordinary combat capabilities. Ectoplasm comments, his eyes on the likes of the Todoroki and Bakugo twins, M and Izumi. But the ones that really stood out were Izuku and Kenji. One using brute strength with technique to tear through the bots like paper, while one was like a blur on the battlefield, easily gaining points. Nizu, I agree. But let's see how they handle this. Nizu grins madly as he slams his paw against a large red button. Izuku sheathed his blade, having torn right through his 20th third pointer. He looked at the discarded robots around him. Yoshitsun. Izuku. Something big is coming. Before Izuku could reply, tremors shook the city, causing the examinees to fumble and look around. There, near the end of the city, was a large robot that was easily 8 stories tall. Izuku, I wonder how much that cost to make. Izuku turned to avoid the falling debris as the zero-pointer smashed through one of the buildings. Help! Izuku stopped and turned to look down the main street, seeing a hand being seen under the rubble and debris. Izuku, That voice. Kenji? Ochako. Kenji cried out as he launched himself down the street, the concrete exploding under his powerful stride. Tenya. Izuku. Where is Kenji going? We have to avoid the zero-pointer. Izuku. Ochako is trapped under the rubble. Tenya. The taller male's eyes widened behind his glasses as Izuku began running down the street as well, his speed going beyond human standards. Tenya didn't hesitate to follow as well his quirk, engine, roaring to life as he kept pace with Izuku. Upon reach of the pile of rubble, Kenji was easily lifting them off Ochako's body. The three releases a sigh of relief as they saw she was fine, only a sprained ankle. Kenji picked Ochako up gently and handed her to Tenya. Tenya, take Ochako back to the entrance. You're fast enough to get away from here quickly. Tenya took his new friend into his arms without question before looking at Kenji and Izuku. Tenya, what are you doing? Izuku, we have to stop it. Tenya, are you two out of your minds? We have to retreat. Kenji, Tenya, we can't. There are others that are scattered in the city. Until they get away, we have to keep its attention on us. Tenya, but Izuki, Ida, we'll be fine. Right now, please take Uraraka to safety. Please. Tenya bit his lower lip, wanting to protest and to at least stay and help them, but he knew that Ochako's safety needed to be priority. Tenya, Ok, I am taking Uraraka to safety, but then I am coming back to help. You two better last until then. Tenya turned and powered up his engines again before dashing away towards the city entrance. Ochako looking over his shoulder, eyes wide as she saw the two standing in front of the zero-pointer, a titan. Up in the observation room, panic was happening. All Might. Nizu, you must stop it. Nizu. It isn't responding. Eraserhead was out of his sleeping bag and was about to head down to stop the zero-pointer, Present Mike and the others ready to intervene as well. Ectoplasm. Hold on, everyone. Watch. The teacher stopped and turned to face the screen. Back with Izuku and Kenji, the two roommates were about to tackle this titan. Izuku. Ok. Remember procedure? 5? Kenji right. Izuku ran back, a few meters away from Kenji. As the zero-pointer got closer, Kenji crouched slightly and connected his hands, interlocking his fingers. Izuku kept a hand on the handle of his sword before running in a full-on sprint towards Kenji, the blonde planting himself, firming on the ground. Izuku now, Izuku yelled, jumping and planting both feet on Kenji's hands. Kenji, here we go. Kenji screamed as he used his hands to launch Izuku upwards, angled towards the giant robot. Izuku cut through the air like a knife, his body flying like a bullet, but his demeanor was calm, eyes narrowed and focused. As he neared the robot, he saw the giant's hand reared back to try and swat Izuku out of the sky. The sound of concrete shattering came from the ground before a massive slab of the street was flung at the robot's arm, knocking it back with enough force for it to halt its attack. Izuku got close to the robot's head, his sword slowly getting unsheathed before he vanished. Izuku. Iato sword style. Spatial severing. Everything stood still for a few moments before the sound of metal grinding against one another filled the fake city. The top of the robot's head was slowly sliding backwards, cut at an angle. Kenji, yeah, Izuku. Kenji cheered on the ground, the black-haired samurai, seen slowly falling behind the robot's body. Kenji then launched himself upwards, jumping off the side of a building and catching Izuku by his arm, landing on a lower roof safely. Kenji, oh, we did it. Izuku. That's we did. Nice work with stopping the arm. Kenji. He thanks Izuku. The two then jumped off the roof, landing on the ground before heading back to the city entrance, just as Present Mike made an announcement. Present Mike, exam over. Before they made it to the entrance, they were intercepted by Tenya, the blue-haired teen sighing in relief as he saw his newly made friends were okay. Tenya, thank goodness you two are all right. I apologize for not being able to help. Kenji. Tenya, what are you saying? You helped. You brought Ochako to safety. Izuku. That's right. We wouldn't have been able to keep it back while worrying about her safety and yours. Kenji. So you helped out a lot. Are you and Ochako okay? None of the debris got you guys, right? Tenya smiled and shook his head. Tenya, no. We both made it with no issue. Izuku nodded in relief, Kenji smiling brightly. Izuku, all right. How about we both head back to the entrance? The two agreed, heading back. As they made it back, Kenji and Izuku were attacked by a brown blur as they were pulled into a hug. "Ochako, you're both okay," Ochako said, her voice cracking slightly as relief filled her. The two smiled and pats the girl on the back gently. "Izuku, we're all right, Ochako." Kenji, yup. "But are you okay? How's your ankle?" Ochako pulled away and nods. "Ochako, recovery girl healed my ankle. She's amazing, but I feel a little sleepy," Ochako adds in sheepishly. Coming up to them, a small elderly woman looked at Kenji and Izuku. "Recovery girl, are you both in need of any healing?" Kenji, "We're okay, Miss Recovery Girl. But can I have a gummy bear, please?" Kenji asked politely, putting his hands together in an almost prayer. This got the heroine to laugh at his antics and nodded, giving the blonde a gummy bear, Izuku as well. "Recovery girl, all right, now you go on and head home." After she left, Kenji immediately wrote down someone on 2 pieces of paper before handing them to Tenya and Ochako. "Kenji, these are mine and Izuku's phone numbers." Tenya and Ochako took the slips of paper and nodded, smiling at the sunshine that was Kenji. "Kenji, I hope we all get into U.A. See you guys later." Kenji said goodbye to them with Izuku, the two now heading home. Observation room. The teachers were speechless while Nizu was cackling like a madman. "All Might, amazing. Those two completely beat the 0-pointer. Midnight. I thought only those on par with All Might's strength could achieve that. Aizawa, I want them both in my class." Vlad King, what? "Aizawa, you can't just call dibs on students." Aizawa only responded by giving his signature grin that could rival Nizu's. All Might couldn't help but smile, feeling his heart swell with pride as he saw that Izuku had the makings of a true hero. Izuku was standing in front of a full-body mirror, adjusting his tie slightly as he wore the student uniform of UA. He didn't really like how restricting the uniform was and how he looked in it, but decided to just tough it out for now. "Kenji, Izuku, help me." Izuku sighed with a small chuckle as he turned around to see Kenji struggling with his tie, his cheeks puffed out slightly in a small pout. "Yoshitsune, he certainly has troubles with such trivial things. Why bother wearing a tie at all?" Izuku smiled at Yoshitsune's words while walking over to Kenji and taking the tie from his hands. "Izuku, okay, pay attention this time," Izuku said as he began fixing Kenji's tie for him, the blonde nodding as he tried to memorize the way Izuku fixed his tie. "Kenji, why even wear a tie? Feels like I'm restricted." "Yoshitsune, see? Kenji agrees with me. Ties are an evil we must not indulge." "Izuku, you and Yoshitsune are such children. It is not that bad, but I do agree that a tie is a nuisance." Izuku then stalked back out to the kitchen to finish packing up their lunches, Kenji's mood flipping as he saw what Izuku had packed for their lunches. "Kenji, no way. Your special rice balls? You rarely make those." "Yoshitsune, I agree. You rarely make these." "Izuku, well, it is our first day at U.A. I decided that this is a perfect time to make them. Now that we're all ready, we should start heading to school." Kenji nodded as he went and grabbed their school bags that were resting by the door. The two future heroes slipped their shoes on and left their apartment, out on the streets moments later. "Kenji, I'm so excited. I can't believe Ochako and Tenya are in our class." Kenji was bounding excitedly ahead of Izuku, beaming brightly. "Izuku, I know, it is nice to know that our friends will be joining us in our class." Flashback. Izuku walked out of the kitchen, holding a tray of some homemade mochi, tea, and cakes. Kenji was animatedly talking with Ochako and Tenya, the blonde having invited the two over so they could open their mail with their first ever friends. "Izuku, here you all are. Mochi, tea, and some cakes." Izuku set the tray down and put the tea-filled cups in front of his friends. "Kenji, Izuku made all the sweets on his own. He's super good at it." "Ochako, you make homemade mochi?" Ochako began to drool slightly as she eyed the pinting dessert on her plate, Tenya thanking the samurai with a polite bow of his head. "Tenya, thank you very much, Izuku. I must say, I was surprised you invited us over." Ochako nodded in agreement. Her cheeks puffed slightly as he happily ate the mochi, eyes sparkling happily as the beautiful taste of strawberry and sakura cream hit her taste buds. "Izuku, it was Kenji's idea. He thought it would be nice to have you guys here when we open our letters." "Kenji, don't forget, Yoshitsune also wanted to meet them too," Kenji added, eating a piece of cake. The two friends blinked at the aforementioned person. "Tenya, who is Yoshitsune?" I feel as if that name is familiar. Izuku nods slightly before closing his eyes. The room got colder slightly as a figure began to shimmer into existence beside Izuku, shocking both Tenya and Ochako. Yoshitsune, I apologize if this is shocking for you. I am Yoshitsune, Izuku's mentor of the blade and his friend. Kenji, Hayayoshi. This is Ochako and Tenya. Izuku opened his eyes, smiling slightly at his friends. Izuku, Uraraka, Ida. This is the one who gave me hope in becoming a hero. He taught me the way of the sword and showed me that I did not need to be a victim. Ochako's eyes widened at the mention of Izuku's words. Ochako, victim? Izuku, were you? Tenya, Uraraka, we should not press a topic that may potentially bring up painful memories. Tenya scolds Ochako slightly, chopping the air, but the crinkle of worry was etched in his eyes. Izuku shook his head and looked to his friends. Izuku, it's all right. Just know that I was treated unfairly my entire life up until 3 years ago. Yoshitsune saved my life, giving me strength and opening my eyes to the truth. I was hated by my family, and now they no longer mean anything to me. Surprisingly, Tenya was the first to speak. Tenya, if we were to come across your family, Izuku, know that they will not harm you ever again. Izuku was taken aback by the fierce anger that burned within the speedy hero's eyes. Another source of anger hit Izuku as Ochako was no different. Her eyes narrowed and fists clenched tightly. Ochako, we promise. Izuku smiled and nods his head, blinking as he felt Yoshitsune's hand on his head and patting it. Yoshitsune, Izuku is lucky to have you three as his friends. Now, before we get caught up in vengeance, shall we open the letters? The anger within the air slowly dissipated as the two now grabbed their respective letters. Kenji, ooh, I'm gonna go first. The blonde berserker opened the letter and blinked at the device that came out. He stared in awe as a holographic message popped up of Aizawa. Aizawa, greetings Kenji Miyazawa. During the exam, you managed to gain a 97% on the written portion, setting you above a majority of those taking the exam. However, you shined in the physical portion, gaining 80 villain points, already setting you up to be in Class 1A. However, due to your bravery and heroic deeds of stopping the zero-pointer, rescuing a fellow examinee, you obtained 60 points in rescue, earning you a total of 140 points. Congratulations, Kenji Miyazawa. Welcome to UA. The message ended, and Kenji cheered excitedly, Ochako joining in as the atmosphere in the room went up. Kenji, oh. Izuku, your turn. Izuku nodded as he did the same as Kenji. As the message started, Izuku was pleasantly happy to see Uncle Nizu. Nizu, hello Izuku. Am I a mouse, a dog, or a bear? But what really matters, I am the principal. Izuku chuckled at his uncle's antics as both Ochako and Tenya's own eyes were wide in awe. This was the principal of U.A. Nizu, now, I am very pleased to announce your scores for the exams. For the written portion, you scored a perfect score. Not many have ever accomplished this feat. You also excelled well in the physical portion as you earned a total of 90 villain points. But, as I'm sure you're aware, thanks to Kenji, you earned rescue points. With 50 points in working together with Miyazawa to stop the zero-pointer, you got a total score of 140, a tie for first place. I humbly welcome you to your Academia of U.A. Izuku stared in awe even as the message came to a close, instantly getting pulled into a hug from Ochako and Kenji, the two cheering for their friend. Kenji, you did it, Izuku. You're in 1A. Ochako, yeah, we're on our way to be heroes. Tenya, this calls for a celebration. The spectacled brunette raised his cup of tea in the air as a sort of toast. Tenya, to us and our futures as heroes. Kenji. Flashback end. Izuku and Kenji approached the gates of U.A., the blonde happily leading the samurai as they spotted both Ochako and Tenya waiting at the gate for them. Tenya, Izuku, Miyazawa. The glasses-wearing teen waved a hand, greeting the two. Tenya slightly frowned when he saw the pout on Kenji's face. Kenji, nah, I told you to call me Kenji. Tenya, we're friends. Ochako giggled at the slight, remorseful look on Tenya's face as he apologized for forgetting to call Kenji by the name he desired. She then waved to Izuku and bounded over. Ochako, Izuku, you ready? Let's all go and get to class. Izuku chuckled briefly and nodded at the bubbly girl as the four friends now made their way into the school. Kenji, oh wait, does anyone know where 1A is? Silence filled the air as the four of them processed the question. Izuku, oh boy. The door to 1A greeted the four friends with a massive design, possibly for those with gigantification quirks. Tenya opened the door for them and spotted a few seats that were still empty. Tenya? Ah, all right, let us all go take our seats. The bnha took a seat, smiling as the rest all took a seat to be next to one another. Izuku, however, was on guard, as was Kenji, due to the presence of 5 individuals in the room. Thankfully, they had grouped together, far enough away from Izuku and his friends. Ochako, Izuku, are those the— Ochako whispered, a nod from Izuku clarifying the answer. Tenya went rigid, but a reassuring look from Izuku and a smile from Kenji helped him relax. Kenji, don't worry, Ochako. Izuku has us, his friends, to rely on. Tenya smiled at the bright confidence and nodded in agreement. Izuku? Izuku felt himself restrain any sort of outward reaction before turning his head to face the one speaking to him. Izuku, I thought I told you not to bother me, Yagi. Was moving out not enough of a hint? Izumi flinched slightly and rubbed her arm with a hand. Izumi, I just wanted to congratulate you on taking first place, that's all. Izumi went back to her desk and sat down, slightly sagging in her seat as Shoka comforted her gently. Ochako frowned. Despite knowing what happened to Izuku, at least what feelings he had towards his family, it still hurt to see someone like that. She shook her head though. That was not her place to put her nose into. All she needs to do now is be there for Izuku and support him. As his friend, Kenji, Izuku, will you ever forgive them? Kenji asked gently, the blonde looking at his friend. Izuku, I do not think I can. Every time I think what they have done to me, my disdain for them spikes to dangerous levels. For how they treated me, I do not think they are worth forgiveness. Izuku answers honestly. His 3 friends nodded a bit in supporting Izuku's decision. Izuku's eyes suddenly narrowed as a hand went to the handle of his blade, eyes going to the door of the room before visibly relaxing. If you're here to make friends, leave. The student's attention was turned to the voice at the door of the classroom. A man climbed out of what appeared to be a yellow sleeping bag and faced the class, his eyes tired and bloodshot, yet the gaze was intimidating. Aizawa, I am Aizawa, your homeroom teacher for the next 3 years of your education at UA. Here, Aizawa grabbed bag clothes that appeared to be gym uniforms. He tossed them towards the students. Aizawa, go get changed and meet me down at the field. Now, the students all got up and scampered off to their respective locker rooms. Kenji waved at Aizawa brightly as he left alongside the other students. Down in the changing room, Kenji, Izuku, and Tenya were discussing what they possibly could be doing. Izuku, he's probably going to gauge where we currently are at via tests. Kenji, tests? Like our quirks and stuff? Kenji asked, pulling the undershirt of his uniform off and immediately drawing in the attention of several boys in the room. Dude, you're buff as hell. I agree, so manly. I'm Jiro Kirishima, and what's your workout routine? A redhead who introduced himself walked over to Kenji with another blonde that had a black streak thunderbolt in his hair. Kenji, however, looked confused at the question. Kenji, I just train and fight with Izuku. Izuku, who had pulled his undershirt off as well, got the same reaction out of Kirishima as well. Jiro, no way. You two are so manly. We definitely should train together sometime, the Sharteeth teen said excitedly, Kenji nodding his head enthusiastically. Across the room, Katsuki and Shoto stared in disbelief at how strong Izuku's body looked. He was no longer lanky and skinny. Now his body was filled out with sleek and toned muscles. Kenji was similar in stature as well, his demeanor and face not matching his obvious strength. Tenya, I hate to interrupt, but we all must finish changing should we wish to not keep our sensei waiting. Izuku nodded, but his attention was drawn to a small teenager spouting nonsense about a hole behind a poster that led to the females' changing room. We can see right in. I can finally see. The midget felt his life flashed before his eyes as a shoe was thrown at the student, barely missing his head as it slammed into the wall, creating a small spiderweb of cracks. The perv slowly turned his head to see Kenji there, his face sporting a kind smile, yet the image of death looming behind him. Kenji, sorry, I just don't appreciate people like that, Kenji said in a happy tone. Izuku's sweat dropping as he could feel the intent to bodily harm rolling off his friend's body in waves. The midget backed away from the hole with his hands up in mock surrender, whimpering as Kenji walked over to retrieve his shoe. Kenji, don't worry. We can be friends. Kenji suddenly leans forward, almost threateningly. Kenji, as long as you never do that again. The midget just rapidly shook his head. The poor guy felt as if he was seconds away from his own execution. Kenji nods as he slipped his shoe on before heading out of the locker room, leaving behind a group of boys who were slightly paler than they were before. Tenya. It would seem that Kenji is very serious when it comes to certain topics, the spectacled friend said, stuttering slightly at the display of power Kenji gave. Yoshitsun, you have taught him well, Izuku. Izuku, how to teach him the proper way to do things. Have to say, I am proud. Yoshitsun, oh, I am sure. Tiger Mom. Izuku refrained from reacting to the nickname and followed Kenji out, Tenya close behind as the stunned boys hurriedly got changed. The field was a spacious area of U.A, with various generic track and field segments placed. Aizawa greeted the students with an impassive look before beginning to explain why they were there. Aizawa, we'll be going through quirk assessment exercises today to gauge where you currently stand. Ochako went to speak up, to question about orientation, but Izuku gently stopped her by placing a hand on her shoulder. She nods and stays quiet. Aizawa, first, we will have a demonstration. Izuku, Miyazawa, since you both equally tied for first place in the exams, which of you will like to perform the ball throw? Izuku, Kenji, you take this one. Kenji, really? Okay. The blonde went over to the circle on the ground before catching the softball that Aizawa tossed to him. The cheerful brutalist looked to the underground hero for instructions. Aizawa, before we start, Miyazawa, how far was your softball throw in middle school? Kenji, about 113 meters. Kenji replies after thinking, getting some surprised murmurs from the other students, excluding his friends. Aizawa grinned at the answer, obviously impressed under his scarf. Aizawa, all right, now with your quirk, all you need to do throw the ball as far as you can. Remember, we're gauging where you currently are at with your quirk, so go all out. Kenji, okay. Izuku, can you make sure everyone steps back, please? Izuku nods his head as he directed the other students to back up, the boys doing so without question, including Katsuki and Shoto. The girls were a little weary, but did the same. Kenji took a deep breath before activating his quirk. The atmosphere immediately got heavy and the students buffered slightly, aside from Izuku. Kenji's body was radiating a dark reddish aura as his quirk berserker took effect. His muscles seemed to tighten up and gain in mass slightly, the ground beneath his feet cracking from pressure alone. Aizawa's eyes were wide as he had to brace himself from the power that oozed from Kenji's form. The blonde, still keeping his smile, reared the hand holding the ball back. Leaning back slightly, he readies up and launched the ball. The moment the ball left his fingertips, a shockwave ravaged the area and caused intense winds. Izuku was unfazed as most of the students had to hold on to one another to prevent themselves from being blown away. Kenji turned his quirk off and smiled, turning to face Aizawa, who managed to not get blown back. Kenji, how'd I do? Izuku smiled at how strong Kenji had become during their 10 months together. Aizawa composed himself and looked down at the machine and turned it over to show the other students. Ijiro, that is so manly. No way, dude, he's way too strong. It's unfair. Tenya, such strength. Katsuki, holy fucking shit. How the hell is he so damn strong? Shoto, he is powerful? And just from a throw. Izumi, Izuku wasn't even phased from the power. Does that mean he's just as strong? Author, that's right, biatch. On the screen, read 13 feet, 620 inches meters. Izuku, good job, Kenji. I think I will make steamed meat buns tonight. Kenji practically exploded in joy as he jumped up and down and headed back to the others. Aizawa, what Miyazawa displayed is exactly what I want from the rest of you. Using our quirks, this is going to be so much fun. The one who spoke was a girl with pink being her main color. It seemed she had some sort of mutation quirk that altered her appearance to a more exotic alien appearance. However, as those words left her lips, she flinched and broke out in cold sweat. Izuku fun? The students all turned to face Izuku, audible gulps of uncertainty coming from them as fierce emotion began filling the air. Izuku fun? This is not some game or leisurely activity. Aizawa, a hero course teacher and pro hero, is assessing us to see if we're fit to be heroes. And you say it's fun? Izuku's calm demeanor melted away as an authoritative presence exudes from him. Izuku, if you think that being a pro hero is about just using your quirk and having fun, then you best change that way of thinking. We are going to be trained and taught how to fight against the unfairness that are villains, natural disasters, and everything in between. Kenji placed a hand on Izuku's arm. The blonde's eyes worried at his friend's almost emotional outburst. Izuku sighed and calmed down, thanking Kenji. Aizawa, well said, Izuku. Everything he said was the absolute truth, and that is what will be beaten into you during your years at UA. In fact, the one who gets last place gets expelled. We need capable heroes, not those who only give half the effort. Izuku then caught a ball that was thrown to him, looking over at his uncle. Aizawa, you need to cool down. Go throw the ball, and we can continue the tests. Izuku nodded and went to the circle, bothered by the uneven grounded due to Kenji's earlier throw. He threw the ball upwards, slightly crouching as he had his hand on the handle of his sword. Izuku, as the ball fell back down toward Izuku. Those who blink would have missed it. Izuku drew the sword from the sheath at impossible speeds, hitting the soft ball with the flat side of the blade. The ball seemed to go warp and shift in shape slightly at the strike before it blasted towards the sky. Ijiro, him too? See, this isn't funny. A girl that seemed to have earphone jacks on her earlobes said as she realized that two monsters were in her class. A girl with a long black ponytail silently agreed. Katsuki was in shock, seeing the amount of power that was displayed. Not just that blonde guy, but also Izuku were leagues above him in power. Katsumi clenched her hand as she now knew that Izuku was far from her reach. No amount of strength she could muster would even be enough to force Izuku back to the Yagi house. Shoto was no different. With pure strength alone, they'd decimate anything in their path. Add skill and technique in there, and they'd be unstoppable. Shoka frowned as the feeling of pain settled in her chest. Izuku was strong now, he wouldn't need any of them. Izumi finally realized just how fortunate she and her parents were when Yoshitsune only threatened them. The sword spirit was more than capable of silencing them forever should it wished. Aizawa, good work, Izuku. You got 12 feet 683 inches. Izuku nodded and walked back before he felt someone jump onto his back, the black-haired samurai smiling as he looked back at Kenji. Kenji, I beat you this time, Izuku. The blonde beamed brightly while Izuku nods his head and lightly pats Kenji's arm. Izuku, hi, yes you did. The five tormentors felt their hearts ache as they saw a genuine smile from Izuku that they haven't seen in 3 years. And it wasn't directed at them, but towards someone else. Soon a sickly feeling filled them, jealousy. They were jealous that some random person was so close to Izuku whilst they were basically dubbed as strangers. All of them. We'll get you back, Izuku/Icon. The test continued on as planned, and Aizawa was liking Kenji and Izuku more and more due to being impressed by their drive and commitment. Sit-ups. Kenji and Izuku were told to stop while the highest numbered score before theirs was 100. Push-ups. Again, the two were told to stop. Sidesteps. Kenji didn't do that great since his quirk could only help him so much. Izuku did good though. Endurance test. Kenji and Izuku managed to outrun a girl named Momo Yaoyorozu, who created an electric scooter until it ran out of gas. Standing long jump. Both cleared it easily. Pull-ups. Kenji and Izuku were told to stop, but not before beating Kirishima in a test of manliness. 50-meter dash. Izuku and Kenji were pitted against one another. Using the abilities they earned through training, they blitzed the distance and both got amazing scores. Izuku, 0.09 seconds. Kenji, 0.12 seconds. The last test was the ball throw, but the only ones the two paid attention to were their friends. Ochako got infinity thanks to canceling out the gravity of the ball, and Tenya got a decent score of 800 meters since Kenji suggested powering up his engines before throwing the ball. Aizawa, alright, here are the scores. First place, Izuku. Second place, Kenji Miyazawa. The rest is similar in placement, just push them down a couple places. Yoshitsune. Izuku moved to the side. Izuku sidestepped and turned his body, effectively dodging Katsuki, who tried to get a surprise tackle against Izuku. Izuku had to admit, Katsuki using stealth was a surprise. Katsuki, you damn bnha. His insult was cut off as Kenji grabbed him by the back of the shirt and yeets him back over to the other four tormentors. That guy empty. Why eat? Ochako had to slap her hand over her mouth as the blonde dude with the electric quirk shouts out a random meme, causing a few students to try and stifle their laughs. In the school, teachers shivered in fear as they heard mad cackling coming from the principal's office. Izumi caught Katsuki with her quirk and flinched as she saw the kind smile on Kenji's face, but a foreboding danger coming from his presence. Aizawa, alright, last place. Minoru Minetta, you're expelled. Minoru. Inolo. Izuku. Aizawa-sensei, do not expel him, please. Every practically got whiplash when they heard Izuku's words as they all turned to him for an explanation. Izuku. Despite his less than appealing personality, fucking pervert. Izuku. His quirk is perfect for becoming possibly the most efficient capture hero. So I would like to make a deal. If I can't train him up and change his overall personality in 2 weeks, then you can expel both Minetta and I. The class gasped, Ochako waving her arms around in disbelief while Tenya seemed to be buffering. Yoshitsu. Come again? Kenji. Izuku. You can't be serious? Go. Olive. Minetta's flaws are impulsive, something he's probably had for years and no one bothered to correct, meaning he has no real control over it. That is why I'm training him and risking my place here at U.A for it. I know how it is being marked for something I can't control. The last part had venom in it as 5 people flinched at the implication. Minetta, you'd risk your spot at the best hero school in Japan for me? The midget asked in shock as he looked up at Izuku. No one had ever given him a chance once they found out how much of a pervert he was. Izuku. Of course. We both grew up with aspects of our lives we couldn't control. It would be hypocritical of me to not lend my aid, so someone's suffering like I did. Aizawa hit it, but the smile on his face showed that he appreciated the warm spirit that Izuku had despite the pain he suffered. Aizawa. Alright. I'll give you 2 weeks to do it. Izuku. Thank you, Aizawa-sensei. Aizawa. Everyone go back and change into your school uniforms again. You have your syllabus on your desks. Back in the locker room, Izuku was changing out of his clothes and noticed that Minetta was distancing himself away from the poster. Albeit it seemed that it took some willpower to do so, if the tremors in his arms were anything to go by. Ijiro. He's fighting himself to stop being a pervert, kind manly. Tenya. Yes. The way he's trembling and forcing himself to look away from the poster is admirable. Minoru. Izuku. Izuku noticed that Minetta had gotten a little closer now. The midget seemed to be wringing his shirt slightly. Minoru. How will you help me? No one has ever tried, and it's hard to stop myself. Izuku couldn't help the small smile that came to his lips. Izuku. I'll be honest. I'll be training you to go past your limits and teach you ways to destroy old habits. The training will be hard, but the end result will be worth it in the end. Deal? Minoru, deal. I promise to give it my all. Izuku, good. Now let's all head back to class. Kenji, got it? And Minoru. Minoru, eh? Minoru? Kenji, yeah. I call all my friends by their first names. Anyway, I wanted to apologize about earlier. Sorry. Kenji bowed his head, Minetta waving his hands as if to say that he had no reason to apologize. Minoru. No, it's okay. If I want to change, stuff like that is going to need to happen. While this was going on, Katsuki and Shoto felt shame pilling on their shoulders. Izuku compared his past to Minetta's, possibly treated the same. Physically getting harmed due to things they couldn't control. Katsuki, damn it. I even almost hurt him again. Is hurting him just fucking a habit now? Shoto. We are sorry, Izuku. Please give us a chance like you were giving Minetta. The day was over, and the class opted to introduce themselves before leaving. Author. Everyone's introductions will be the same. Shoka's and Katsumi's will be very similar to their twins. Kenji. Guess it's my turn. My name is Kenji Miyazawa, and my quirk is called Berserker. It's a booster and adaptation quirk. Momo? Adaptation? Kenji, yep. Izuku told me that while training, my strength from using my quirk actually leaks into my natural-born strength. So without even using my quirk, I can lift things like trucks and large debris no problem. Plus, the stronger my natural strength, the stronger the boost is when using my quirk. Denki, dude, you could probably become just as strong as All Might in just a few years. Momo? I agree. That quirk is quite something. Kenji, thanks. Oh, and I like Izuku's cooking. Kenji smiled as he sat back down, having followed the usual greeting and likes and quirk explanation. Izuku was next and stood up, walking to the front of the class. Izuku. My name is Izuku, no surname, and I am quirkless. The class, aside from Kenji, gasped in surprise. Izuku. The power I displayed was from intense training in the way of the blade. This sword, Izuku lifted up his sheathed katana. Izuku, hold the most precious thing in the world to me. My mentor and possibly first friend I had in years before Kenji. He taught me how to wield a sword, train my body and mind to achieve the strength and skill I have today. Without his guiding hand, I would be dead. The class grew silent at that before Ochako and Tenya got up from their desks and went over to Izuku. Kenji was up and did the same before pulling Izuku into a hug. The samurai's hand was trembling as he held the sheathed blade, moisture gathering in his eyes as he spoke from the heart about Yoshitsune. Yoshitsune, Izuku, Yoshitsune, thank you for always being there for me. I mean it. You kept me sane and gave me the lessons I needed to go forward in life and not stay in the past. Yoshitsune, I vow to be by your side, Izuku. I'm not going anywhere. Izuku and Minetta stood in front of both Aizawa and Nizu. The principal of MHA had called both students and their teacher into his office to discuss what transpired down at the field. Nizu, well, this certainly is interesting. Allow me to get this straight. Izuku, you plan on training Minetta to break him out of a habit formed from many years of it being left unchecked, at the cost of your possible expelling? Izuku, that's right, Principal Nizu. Nizu, I see. Aizawa, you gave Izuku the green light to follow through with this? Aizawa, I did. Izuku is putting his future on the line to help someone who suffered just as he had. Nizu, and Minetta, how do you feel about this? Minetta, I feel like I don't deserve it. I can't control my impulses, but no one has ever tried to help me before. I want to change. Minetta answers truthfully, eyes looking downwards. Nizu grins and clasped his paws together. Nizu, okay. I've decided to allow this. Izuku, you and Minetta are exempted from participating in any usual heroics training and classes. This will further allow you more time to help Minetta here improve and change. Izuku, Principal Nizu, are you certain this is all right? Nizu, of course. If young Miyazawa wishes to join in these training sessions as well, I will allow it. The mammal then turned his head to face Minetta. I do not know what you had gone through, but believe me when I say that Izuku here will train you right. You can be honest, truthful, and tell him anything. He is not one to judge someone's unfortunate past. Izuku, thank you, Principal Nizu. Minetta bowed his head, trying to fight back tears of joy at being given the chance to change. Nizu, Aizawa, I want you to relay to the class about this arrangement so no questions will arise. Aizawa, got it, Nizu, good. Now, you three can go back to what you're doing. The trio left with Aizawa, turning around to head back to the teacher's lounge. Minetta and Izuku turned to head towards the entrance of the school, getting greeted by Kenji. Minoru, so what did Nizu say? The blonde asked curiously as the three of them began leaving campus. Izuku, well, Nizu is allowing Minetta and I to not join in on heroics classes to allow me to focus on training Minetta. Minetta, he also said you could join us, Miyazawa. Kenji, that's great. And Minoru, call me Kenji. We're friends now, as we're on first name basis. Minetta stammered slightly before bowing his head. Minetta, right? Izuku, all right. Minetta, contact your parents and inform them that you will be staying the night at my place. Minetta, Izuku, training starts now. We have no time to waste. But do not worry. We'll be starting off light with simplistic body toning exercises. Kenji, yay! That also means Minoru can join us for dinner. You're really gonna like Izuku's cooking. He's the best. Izuku, Kenji, don't say that when we're still on grounds. Lunch Rush is still a pro hero and surprisingly good at stealth. Kenji, sorry. Okay, now let's go. Kenji claims proudly as the blonde began leading the other two back to the apartments. Minetta was silent as they walked, still feeling as if he were in some sort of lucid dream. Minetta, mind being trained by two of the strongest in class? Them understanding why I'm like this. What did I do to deserve them being so kind to me? Minetta wondered as he looked at Izuku and Kenji, not being able to help the smile that comes across his face. Izuku dodge. Minetta scrambled to his feet as Kenji was tossing bowling ball-sized rocks at him. Despite Kenji not throwing them at a relatively high speed, Minetta still struggled to dodge them. Minetta, now I know why these two are so strong. The rocks are thrown so fast that I can barely dodge them. If Kenji isn't even trying and they're still this fast, I stand no chance if they get serious. This training had been going for a day now, and Minetta already saw improvements in himself. He was taller than before by a few inches due to unlocking what Izuku said. Flashback. Izuku. Minetta, your entire flow of energy is completely in disarray. Minetta, my energy? Kenji, it has so many names like chi, ki, and churka. But the flow of energy is kind of like how blood flows through your body. Izuku, yes. I was the same before Yoshitsune saved me 3 years ago. The energy flowing through us promotes life, wellness, and growth. Minetta, is that why I'm so short? Kenji chokes on a sandwich before coughing. Minetta smiles sheepishly and rubs his neck. Izuku, possibly yes, but we're gonna fix that. Yoshitsune? Izuku called out to his sword before a ghostly apparition manifested in front of Minetta. The smaller teen stared in awe. Minetta, so this is what your sword really looks like? Hi, I'm Minoru Minetta. Minetta waved from the ground, earning a gentle smile from the ghostly samurai. Yoshitsune, a pleasure to meet you in person, Minetta. I would have thought this would frighten you. Minetta, I've seen what Izuku and Kenji look like when they spar. Nothing can scare me now. Yoshitsune released a hearty laugh, admitting that when the two powerhouses did spar, it was a frightening display of strength. Kenji, are we really that scary? Izuku, apparently so. Kenji pouts a little. He didn't know he was scary. However, the pout vanished when Izuku simply pats him on the head. Yoshitsune had Minetta sit down in front of him, the samurai doing the same. Yoshitsune, now, Minetta, I want you to close your eyes and focus. Picture your body sitting here, and I will show you what I see. Minetta nodded and closed his eyes, picturing his body sitting on the ground. He felt something slightly chilling wash over him before seeing a slight white aura wavering around his body. Yoshitsune, I am now in your mind, Minetta. Do not lose focus. That white light you see is the fluctuation of energy. Minetta understood and could see the problem. The energy was flickering around some points of his body, weak almost everywhere. Yoshitsune, now this may cause discomfort. I'm going to realign the energy to cause it to flow properly. While I do this, do not open your eyes or the connection will fail. Minetta nodded his head, but felt slightly unsure of the mention of discomfort. Soon, Minetta felt as if he were getting sleepy, like fatigue hitting him from a night of excessive training. But he stayed strong and kept focus as he watched the aura around his body get brighter and stronger, now coating his body like a protective. Minetta, so that's what your energy is supposed to look like? Yoshitsune, that's right. The changes to your body will be instantaneous. The discomfort you felt or your energy slipping will be due to your body going through change. Now open your eyes. Minetta opened his eyes, flinching slightly at the sudden brightness. He blinked as he saw Kenji staring at him with pride, and Izuku nodding in approval. Minetta, W what? Kenji, Minetta, you look so different now. Minetta, W, what do you missed at my voice? Minetta registered that his voice was slightly deeper and his weird lisp was gone. Minetta stood up and went over to the bathroom to check the mirror. He froze as he saw what looked. Minetta stared in pure disbelief and denial that the person in the mirror was him. He looked like he had actual hair now. He was definitely taller too by a few inches. Minetta, that's me? Izuku, that is correct. Your body wasn't growing properly due to the energy not being distributed evenly. But now look at you. This is how you were supposed to look. Minetta nodded his head slowly. He looked like he still has room to grow as well. Kenji, you'll also change even more when you start training like we do. So get ready for that. But for now, food. Flashback in. Now we find Minetta sprawled out on the floor of the forest, catching his breath as Izuku set up their meal. Izuku, Minetta, come and eat. Minetta, coming. Minetta groans slightly as she forced himself off the ground and walked over to the familiar stump where they've eaten all their meals so far. Today was dumpling day, and Kenji was exuberant to have them. Minetta picked one up with chopsticks and took a bite. His eyes widened. Minetta, holy wow. Izuku, you makes these? Kenji, all from scratch. Minetta, I could marry you for the food alone. Izuku, I would have to respectfully decline. I do not think getting married at such a young age would be good for me. Izuku said politely and began eating himself, enjoying how well his dumplings turned out. Kenji, I bet everyone at class tomorrow is going to flip. Minetta, I think so. I do look totally different. Izuku, what about your mind? Do you still have those impulses? Minetta, nope. I think that could be why my energy was so out of whack. All my energy went to my… Izuku quickly shoved another dumpling into Minetta's mouth with his chopsticks. Izuku, we get it. Kenji, get what? Kenji asked, looking slightly lost. You shit, son. Izuku, protect this cinnamon roll at all costs. Izuku nodded in affirmation as he continued eating, Minetta following suit as he realized he could have corrupted this sweet sunshine. Kenji, guys? Kenji asked again, but the two just continued eating. The blonde shrugged and just put another dumpling into his mouth, chewing happily. The next day, in class, students began filling in slowly. Ochako and Tenya were waiting on Kenji and Izuku to arrive, having received a text about going to class a bit later than usual. Tenya, I truly hope Izuku and Mimi and Kenji are well. Ochako, me too. Izuku was super nice to offer to train Minetta. I bet if anyone can help him improve, it's Izuku. Ehiro, Jo, Uraraka. Where's Izubro and Miyazawa? Ochako, oh, morning Kirishima. And they said they'll be here before class starts. Ijiro, got it? Man, Izubro is so manly, risking his spot in Udare to help a fellow classmate. Tenya's sweat drops as he saw the manly tears start spilling once more. Over by the past table, the five were discussing something. Katsumi, what was Izuku thinking, the idiot? Risking his spot at U.A for some damn useless pervert. Shoka, I agree. It would have been safer for someone like Minetta to not have the power a pro would have over the public. Shoto, what if Izuku does manage to change him? Then the problem would not be an issue. Katsuki, fucking nerd, is too stupid to realize some people aren't worth helping. Izumi, kinda like us. This brought the group down slightly. The cold stare in his eyes 3 years ago, as he dismissed them from ever being a part of his life again. It still hurt. The door opened, and in came a teenager the class didn't know. He had 2 bags in his arms and was chuckling. I am faster now. Kenji then appeared in the doorway, pouting slightly as he walked over to the teenager and took his bag back. Kenji, no fair. You used your quirk. The teenager stuck his tongue out with a silly grin before heading over to take a seat. At Minetta's seat, Tenya, excuse me, but who are you? I do not recognize you. Ochako, yeah, did you transfer in kinda late? The teenager blinked and looked at the 2 friends with a blank look on his face. Seriously, guys? Izuku then took the chance to walk in, but he didn't look too amused. He held a textbook in his hand before walking over to the new face and put the book down. Izuku, Minetta, next time you study late, do not forget to grab your textbook. Most of 1A. Minetta, the one now revealed as Minetta, grinned and held up a peace sign. Minetta, sup guys? The class exploded into an uproar of questions and exclamations. Denki, dude, what happened to you? You look like a totally different person. Ijiro, did Izubro's training really change you? In a day? Minetta, something like that. My quirk changed too. Look, Minetta then grabbed a lock of his hair and pulled, it immediately turning into his orbs he would use. A single strand of hair now produces a single ball, and the hair grows back immediately. Minetta, they even don't stick together anymore, so I can use them better in situations. Zero, that's seriously impressive, Izuku. Mind if we can get in on some training too? Izuku, of course, I'm more than happy to help you all train after school. But first, it must happen after my assignment of training Minetta is complete. Ochako, assignment? But I thought it was just an offer, Izuku. It's an assignment now. The principal issued it as such. The tired voice of their homeroom teacher filtered into the room as he walked in. Upon setting his eyes on Minetta, Aizawa nodded in approval before turning to face the class. Aizawa, now, today we will be commencing your battle training. Katsuki, battle. Shoto, training. Aizawa, and your heroics teachers are here. The door was opened, and the familiar sights of the number 1 and number 3 hero was seen. All Might, I am here walking through the door like a normal person. Tone it down, number 1. Sup, I'm Hooks. The number 3 hero chastised before giving a carefree wave. Many of the girls of 1 stared in awe at the two huge heroes. Denki, no way. We get to be trained by top heroes? Ijiro, so damn manly. Katsuki, Tisich, at least we'll get proper training. All Might. But first, before we begin, All Might clicked a switch, and slots in the wall opened up to reveal the students' requested hero outfits. All Might, we all must look the part. Hawks, that's right. Go collect your suitcases containing your hero costumes. Oh, Minetta, Izuku, I have yours with me. The principal informed me about your assignment and made plans to allow you two to have the gym during this session. All Might, they're not joining the rest of the class? All Might asked curiously, slightly crestfallen that Izuku would not be able to be spoken to. He wanted to learn how he was doing directly. Aizawa, if you had bothered to read the email sent to every staff member, Izuku and Minoru Minetta are exempt from participating in heroics classes. Izuku here is acting as a personal trainer for Minetta, as is his assignment. Hawks, that's right. Minetta, the principal predicted you would be changing quite a bit, so he made alterations to your hero's suit. Kenji Miyazawa, do you want to take part in the training as well? Hawks handed Minetta the briefcase, the young student nodding his head. Kenji shook his head before giving Izuku a hug. Kenji, I'll help Minetta train after school. I don't want to miss out on battle training, Kenji said excitedly. Hawks nodded in acceptance before looking at both Izuku and Minetta. Hawks, all right, you two follow me. Hawks motioned for both Izuku and Minetta to follow him. Izuku followed without question, along with Minetta. All Might then began leading the rest of the students out of the school towards ground beta for the exercise. The gym was definitely spacious, looking more like a warehouse than a gym. Hawks led he two inside, both of them now wearing their respective Izuku's, Minetta's costume. Izuku, I'm guessing you didn't just bring us here to observe us, did you? Izuku inquired calmly, his hand slowly going to the handle of his sword. Minetta also prepared himself, seeing Izuku go on the defensive. Hawks, you do have good instincts. That's right, your principal asked me to do one thing before you begin your training. Hawks whirled around, red feathers leaving his wings before firing straight at the two students. Izuku drew his sword, deflecting the feathers. Izuku, mine are like blades? Izuku thought to himself as he positioned himself between Hawks and Minetta, blade drawn. Hawks held some feathers in his hands, brandishing them like dual swords, getting into an offensive stance. Hawks, and that was to see just how good you are. Hawks added before his wings flared behind him. Hawks, try not to disappoint. Hawks became a blur of yellow and red as his sharpened feathers clashed against Izuku's sword, the force causing him to skid back slightly. You shit, son. He's not going to hold back. Izuku turned his head slightly, looking over at Minetta. With a nod, the smaller teenager pulled out strands of his hair, the orbs forming in clumps before tossing them into the air. Minetta, move Izuku. Izuku surged forward slightly, disrupting Hawk's footing before leaping back. The clumped-up ball shot towards the pro hero after Minetta performed a textbook-grade soccer kick to it. Hawks knew about the properties of Minetta's quirk, sending feathers to intercept the orbs. Minetta wasn't deterred as he charged at the hero. Minetta, mine thanks to all that dodging I did, I became a lot faster on my feet. My reflexes improved too. Just keep an eye on the feathers. Minetta mentally planned as he pulled out more of his hair to get a few balls ready on backup. In a flurry of movement, the purple teenager flung balls left and right, tactfully tossing them at timed intervals to allow them to bounce off one another. Hawks used his wings to give himself more mobility, moving out of the way of the orbs that bounced too close. The hero was mildly impressed that the small teen used the ball's trajectory to corner him while moving in even closer. Hawks, mind impressive. The way he times his throws, he certainly has amazing hand-eye coordination. Minetta, I got you. Minetta claims as jumps into the air, spinning slightly before he lands on a crouch position. He seemed to sink into the ground slightly before Hawks saw where he landed. It was a like of his orbs. In a flash, Minetta rockets towards Hawks. The combined force of the ball's bouncy nature flung Minetta like a bullet. The poof quirk user got closer to Hawks, the pro finding two balls attached to the sides of his jacket, right under his arms. Hawks spun in the air and deal a spin kick to the teen's side, sending him backwards onto the ground, but he quickly recovered. Hawks, so you can take a hit. Minetta, I've been punched by Kenji. Even when he doesn't use his full strength, his punches hurt way more. Minetta said with pride. Minetta, besides, I win. Hawks raised a brow at that. Hawks, how exactly? Minetta, your swings are wide and precise, making you rotate your arms in certain angles to perform the swings. Hawks looked down and chuckled to himself. The balls that Minetta had placed on him were near the armpits of his jacket. He had tried to lower or move his arms in a different position than he did now. He would be stuck. Hawks, I gotta say, you certainly had good strategy. But what happens when I just take my jacket off? Minetta, well, that would leave you open. Hawks' eyes widened as he felt the back of a blade be pressed up to his neck. He looked to the side and saw Izuku there. Izuku, letting your guard down, Hawks? The samurai asked coolly before lowering his blade and sheathing it. Hawks shrugged his jacket off and chuckled to himself. Hawks, you two are good. Minetta, I read your file, and a single day's worth of training managed to improve you this much? What did they make you do? Minetta, dodging high-speed projectiles, strength training, and making me think outside the box. Minetta grinned proudly as Izuku simply pats the boy on the shoulder. Izuku, I'm proud of you, Minetta. I believe Kenji would be pretty impressed. Minetta, thanks, Izuku. I'll keep doing my best so that won't change. Hawks dusts himself off and stretches his arms a little. Hawks, all right, I've seen what you two can, but now let's see how you train. Izuku nodded as he turned to face Minetta, the teen smiling as he tosses a ball up into the air and catching it with ease. Minetta, let's do this, Izuku. Izuku, right. Katsuki shit. Katsuki swore as he ducked behind a corner, panting heavily as he tried to catch his breath. He was shaking, fucking trembling as he heard footsteps approaching him from up a flight of stairs. Kenji, huh? No, Ochako, he took off. You keep looking on the upper floors and tell me if you find something. Hi. Okay. Kenji smiled brightly as his partner for the Villains vs. Heroes exercise talked to him. Katsuki has 4 eyes on his team, but left him to protect the bomb. Katsuki, mine shit. Fucking shit. I threw everything I had at him, and he barely even got a scratch. It's like his strength even acts like shield. The ashy blonde felt his entire body scream at him to move. Listening, he moved just in time for the entire section of the wall to be obliterated into shards on the ground, a bright smile adorning the blonde. Kenji, I found you. Katsuki shivered at the tone in his voice. Even though it's only been a day, Katsuki knew that the people Kenji likes get called by their first names. But Katsuki shook in his boots as he was looked at. Kenji, Bakugo. Everyone in the observation room shuddered suddenly. Kenji is a kind and sweet guy, always smiling and calling his friends by their first name. Ijiro, why do I feel like I'm in danger? Kyoka, I just felt like something hit me. Shoto and Shoka felt like the world closed and won them for a moment, feeling the animosity from even where they were. What was that feeling of dread? Katsumi felt like an animal that needed to flee, but she held firm. She wasn't a damn coward, but the amount of flight or fight response was almost too much. She was scared. Izumi was the worst of it, her hand going to her chest to ground herself. She took slow and deep breaths to try and calm down. Kenji knew about what they did. Kenji didn't see them as friends. They were not safe from his wrath. Momo needed to support herself against a wall. Was Kenji's power that strong that they could feel it even from here? All might mind that boy. I read his file. Kenji Miyazawa is strong. His physical prowess will no doubt surpass mine in less than a year tops. His personality is kind and loving, yet anyone who looks close enough could see his lust for battle, his hunger and need to fight. Young Bakugo, you need to run. Back in the building, Katsuki didn't hesitate to get and run. Kenji was too strong, too durable, and not to mention he was smart. Katsuki tapped the earpiece to relay a message. Katsuki, oi 4 eyes. Did round cheeks find where you are yet? Tenya. Yes, but do not worry. She isn't able to touch the bomb. Kenji beams brightly. So Ochako found where the bomb is, and soon he heard her voice. Ochako. Kenji, I found the bomb. It's on the 7th floor. Kenji, 7th floor. Got it. Bye, Bakugo. Kenji waved over to the still running blonde before he kicked a hole into the side of the wall and looked up, counting the windows. He smiled. He began climbing the side of the building, smashing his hands into the building and using them as footholds. Ijiro, dude. He's able to break through the building with his fingers? Denki. I don't think even Death Arms could do that. Kenji was happily humming as he went, reaching the 7th-story window and opening it up and climbing in. There he saw Ochako and Tenya playing keep away with the bomb. Running forward, he managed to catch Tenya off guard with a hug. Kenji, Tenya. The speedster flinched and looked down to see that Kenji was there hugging him happily. Tenya? Kenji? Where did you? All Might. Intercom Hero Team wins. Tenya looked over and saw that Ochako had her hand on the bomb, smiling and holding up a peace sign. Tenya, it seems you have bested me. Kenji, sorry Tenya, but did you at least like the hug? Ochako giggled to herself as Tenya became flustered slightly before nodding. Kenji gave great hugs. Katsuki slumped slightly in his shoulders as he heard that they lost. Kenji was someone practically unstoppable, and he didn't even have that red aura around him, either meaning he wasn't going all out. With all for heading back to the observation room, All Might greeted the four back. All Might. All right. So, who can tell me who the MVP was? Kenji raised a hand and smiled. Kenji, it's Tenya. Tenya stayed behind and followed the objective, which was protect the bomb from the heroes. But I kind of don't know how I feel about him moving the bomb around, even if it's fake. Wouldn't shaking and moving a bomb that's a nuke get set off if jostled around? Mina, but isn't it just an exercise? Mina piped up, but someone else realized the logic in it, and Tenya also saw it as well, feeling like a total fool for not taking the exercise in a realistic manner like Kenji had. Momo, no, he's right. If it is just an exercise, we had to put realistic terms to it to make it effective. Miyazawa made a good point in saying that Ida, after setting the bomb location, shouldn't have touched it again afterwards. If this was real, that bomb would have gone off. Momo stared at Kenji with a discerning eye as she realized just how perceptive the blonde was. He thought about the scenario in realistic terms, and it shocked her that no one, including herself, saw it that way. All Might. Those are definitely good points. Ida is indeed the MVP, but the points young Miyazawa and Yaoyorozu made were also something to keep in mind. Now, on to the next fight. Hooks. Alright, I'm impressed. So this is how you trained him to improve so much in one day. You have talent, kid. Izuku had barely broken a sweat while Minetta was on all fours, panting heavily and trying to regain his breath. Minetta, I feel like I'm dying. Minetta gasps out as he collapses, rolling onto his back and starting up at the gym ceiling. Hawks, you did well to hold up against Izuku. I read his file and feats that the principal made. You're pretty damn tough to hold your own against the likes of him. And that Kenji kid. Minetta simply raised a shaky hand and gave a thumbs up. Izuku walked over to his fallen friend and helped him to his feet. Izuku, come on Minetta, a good shower should help your fatigue. Minetta, but I don't want to weigh a walk. Izuku, carry me, Minetta said, holding his hands up and making grabby motions with his hands like a baby does. Izuku sighed and easily hoisted Minetta up with one arm and placed him over his shoulder. Hawks laughed joyfully at the sight. Hawks, all right, go hit the showers. I'll be here to close up the gym. Izuku nodded and did just that, heading out to go to the locker rooms to shower. The locker rooms were filled with small chatter about the heroes versus villains exercises. Kenji was busy undressing, getting down to his underwear before he was jumped on from behind. Denki, yo man, that fight with yours against Bakugo was sick. Ijiro, I agree. It was so damn manly. You made him have to go on the defensive. Kenji, oh thanks guys. Masahiro, I do have a question however. Why do you not call him by his first name? Kenji, because I only call my friends by first names. Bakugo knows why I won't, and so do his friends. Kenji replies with a smile before slipping of his underwear and immediately making every male in the room incredibly jealous. However, Kenji was oblivious to it and heads to the showers, leaving a bunch of shell-shocked teenage boys behind. Denki, is everything about that guy big? His strength, his durability, his kind nature? And now that, Ijiro, I would say it's manly, but my pride in my manlyhood has taken a blow. Every guy there agreed, but turned around to see Izuku come in with Minetta on his shoulder. Minetta, thanks for carrying me, Izuku. I could barely walk after what we did. Izuku, you told me not to go easy on you. That is not my fault. A lightning bolt struck through most of 1A. Tenya coming over to greet Izuku and Minetta and inquiring about their training session. Minetta was set down so he could undress. Izuku the same. Minetta, it was awesome. First, Izuku and I fought hawks, so he could see where we're at. I managed to impress him. Izuku, it's true, Minetta is making leaps and bounds in skill. Afterwards, he watched us go at one another. Another lightning bolt hit the guys, perverse thought invading them. Minetta, you really gave it to me too. I'm definitely gonna feel it tomorrow. Tenya, well, perhaps a shower is in order. Warmth should help soothe any soreness from such strenuous training. Izuku and Minetta nodded, taking off their last bit of clothing, and Izuku striking the sin of envy into many guys once more aside from Tenya and Minetta. Denki collapsed to his knees in defeat while Ijiro was there to sulk with his fellow man. Denki, I lost. This is it. My pride is destroyed. Katsuki was just there frozen in disbelief, as was Shoto. How the hell does he hide that thing in their uniforms? Minaze looked back at the guys who seemed frozen. Minetta, wonder what's up with them? Izuku simply shrugged as he joined Kenji in the showers, and the four guy friends washed off all the hard work they endured that day, oblivious to the silent sound of men crying out for their fellow fallen men. Izuku, Kenji, and their group of friends all sat together on a bus that was taking the students of 1A towards the USJ. However, each student was a bit on edge, the intelligent ones anyway. Izuku and Kenji were on edge due to what transpired yesterday. The press somehow got onto school grounds and sent students into a panic. However, it was all dealt with accordingly thanks to Ida's efforts. He also became the president of Class 1A, while Momo was vice president. 2. Izuku, I'm usually blunt and straightforward when I talk and ask questions, Karo. Izuku, feel free to ask me anything. 2. Why do you have no last name? Izuku, my last name brought me nothing but almost a decade of pain and isolation. Even if I cannot rid of the weight of my past, I refuse to associate myself with it. Kenji nodded as he looked at Izuku, but the samurai was at ease, as if he didn't feel bothered about it. Izuku's past all avert their gaze to avoid eye contact with Ochako and Tenya, a fierce gaze from them. 2. I'm sorry for asking, Karo. Maiza, Kenji, call me Kenji. Can I call you Tsu? Tsu. I actually prefer you call me that, Karo. Kenji, how strong are you? Do you measure how much you can carry? Kenji blinked, and the blonde looked down at his hands and began counting on his fingers. After a few moments, he piped up with a number. Kenji, I can carry 50. Ijiro, only 50 pounds? Kenji, no tons. Kenji said brightly, but blinked as the entire bus went quiet at the revelation of how powerful Kenji was. Denki, with your quirk, right? When Kenji stayed quiet, innocently smiling, Denki began to sweat even more as the class caught on that Kenji meant without his quirk. Just how fucking strong would he be if he used his quirk to the fullest? Aizawa, alright, everyone quiet down because we're here. The bus parks up front of the SJ, which was a massive building that looked like it could house an entire theme park. As they all walked in, they were greeted by the space hero. 13. 13. Welcome to the USJ. Ochako. It's 13. 13. Today, I'm here to oversee your training in various rescue scenarios. From floods to fires, I'm here to teach you how to go through each scenario properly. The class seemed to be amped up for it, especially the likes of Ijiro and Ochako. 13. But before we start, I want to address something. You all know my quirk, right? They questioned the group of students. Ochako, you're able to make black holes at the tips of your fingers and reduce things into atoms, right? Momo, it makes you an effective rescue hero. 13. But it can also be used on people. I want you all to remember no matter the quirk, it can be used to hurt someone in some way. It's up to you to decide how you use your quirk to help people. The class all began to take that to heart, but no more so than the 5 tormentors. They already knew how strong their quirks were, but still used them on Izuku. They felt guilt rip them apart from the inside. Aizumi, Izuku, I'm sorry. Izuku's eyes suddenly narrowed and vanished from where he stood, startling the students and staff before they saw him at the base of the stairs, hand on the handle of his sword. Tenya, Izuku, why? Tenya started, but his voice died in his throat as he saw what appeared to be a swirling mass form in the center of the plaza, dark and foreboding in shape. Kenji, Izuku, Izuku. Kenji, stay up there? Kenji froze at Izuku's words, his eyes wide as he wondered why on earth Izuku didn't want him to join him at the front lines. Izuku, you need to protect our classmates. You're the shield. Kenji shook his head, mentally berating himself for not realizing that his classmates needed to be protected, and thus that was the reason why Izuku went alone. Kenji, okay, you shit, son. I don't think so. Izuku was suddenly lifted up into the air, his eyes wide as a ghostly apparition manifested and became solid, shocking those present as the strangely dressed man held Izuku by the back of his hero costume. Izuku, you shit soon? You shit soon. If you think I am letting my disciple go up against villains, you are sadly mistaken. Go join Kenji in protecting the class. Izuku wanted to deny the order, wanting to defend the USJ and his classmates alongside his uncle, but the pointed stare from Yoshitsune left no room for arguments. The portal expanded and villains began to pour out of it, Izuku making his way back up the rest of the class, sword still drawn as he stood beside Kenji. Kenji, we need to go, Kenji said to the rest of the class before they began rushing towards exits of the USJ alongside 13. However, a swirl of purple stopped their escape. The warp villain had cut them off. Izuku swore mentally as he stood in the front of the students, sword held out in front of him as he trained his eyes on the villain. Kenji stood in front alongside Izuku, hands clenched in a fist while he was crouched, ready to act at a moment's notice. Warp villain. Well, this is a problem. I had no idea that Miyazawa was going to be here. This may prove to be an issue. The class gulped at the tone the villain spoke in, everyone still remembering just how powerful Kenji is. Warp villain. Well, there's only one solution, the villain said before mist exploded off his body like a bomb. The mist consumed the entire group of gathered students. Some managed to not get caught into the portals, but many got warped away, Izuku being one of them along with Minetta. Kenji, Izuku, Kenji shouted, looking around. He saw that Tenya and Ochako were thankfully all right, but many of the other students were gone. The Bakugo and Todoroki twins were gone as well, including Izumi. This was bad. 13. Ida, you need to run and get help. 13 began to order, but felt their words get caught in their throat. The air instantly felt heavier, as if it became pressurized, a ringing sounding in everyone's ears. Everyone turned towards Kenji. The usually cheerful and sunshine blonde was not happy. His eyes were focused as his lips were held in a tight line, a vein slightly bulging on his forehead. His quirk, Berserker, was beginning to activate, and the ground around him cracked under the pressure alone. Kenji, where did you send Izuku? Where did you send my best friend? Kenji demanded as he vanished from where he was, an afterimage where he stood last. The warp villain opened a portal by his side, Kenji's fist being warped to redirect the punch. Kenji's fist connected with the side of the USJ's walls. The result was a massive hole where Kenji's fist had hit. The wall section had been practically vaporized. Barely any shards were left of the wall before Kenji pulled his fist back and returned to stand in front of the class. 13. Miyazawa, stay calm and don't rush in. I'll handle any sort of offensive attacks from this villain. Don't move from your classmates. Kenji wanted to protest, but stopped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He looked back and saw Tenya there, shaking his head. Ida, Kenji, 13 is right. You also know Izuku wouldn't want you just rushing in. Kenji bit his lower lip a bit, his quirk slowly deactivating as he took a breath. Ochako, right now, we need to focus on backing up 13, and then we have to find all our other classmates. Kenji, right? Sorry, guys. Kenji said before his eyes fell back onto the warp villain. He had to protect the class, at least those that were near him. He couldn't risk losing his cool again. Warp villain. My name is Kirojiri, and my job is to make sure none of you heroes leaves this place alive. Over with Izuku. Izuku had been warped to what looked like the torched city with flames. The conflagration zone, it would seem. Izuku sighed as he looked around and saw he was with one other student, Masahiro Ojiro. You alright? Izuku, I'm fine, but I'm a bit insulted. Ojiro. Insulted? How? Izuku. Did they seriously send me here because I'm wearing armor? Izuku said before he immediately stripped off his hero costume, revealing a rather militarist type uniform. Ojiro. Well, when you say it like that, it is pretty insulting, the martial artist said with a sweat drop. However, their conversation was cut short as villains began pouring in, possibly all with fire-resistant quirks or fire-based quirks. Izuku drew his sword and got himself ready, Ojiro doing the same as he readied himself for a fight. Izuku. Ojiro. Will I need to worry about you and the flames? Ojiro. They might pose a problem, but I'll stick clear of them best I can. Izuku. Not good enough. We can't afford to be careful and take too long. Stand back. Izuku took a deep breath, and his sword began to emit a chilling mist. The villains took a reflexive step back upon seeing this happen. Izuku. Dead man's walk, no man's valley. Izuku said, having vanished where he was, and now suddenly behind the group of startled villains. At first, nothing happened before an explosion of cold hit the villains and Ojiro full. A field of ice spanned out of the ground, and the entire place was coated in a severe amount of frost and ice. The conflagration zone was turned into a chilly environment. The villains were unconscious on the ground, covered in frost, but very much alive. Ojiro. Holy crap. Izuku. Come on, we must regroup with our classmates. If we can find some of them and collectively make it back to the stairs. Ojiro. Right. How did you do that? Anyway, the ice attack. Izuku. My sword is an extension of Yoshitsune, a ghost. I am able to control the deadly ice and chilling winds of death, if only for a brief moment. Ojiro. Remind me to never piss you off. Izuku. I am not the one you need to worry about. You shouldn't piss off Kenji. He's the one to fear when angry. Ojiro paled as the two left the zone to make it back to the others. He remembered that Kenji could lift 50 tons without his quirk. Aizawa tried his best to focus on the enemies in front of him, his visor hiding his eyes as he was dispatching villains left and right. However, his current ally was doing far better than he was. Yoshitsune. Nizu had briefed all you that a staff about Izuku's companion, but to personally see the fearsome skill of the ghost, it was almost terrifying how beautiful his movements could be. His movements were fluid and calculated, each strike rendering villains unconscious immediately. Currently, the samurai hadn't drawn his sword, simply using the sheath as a blunt weapon. The samurai had a pile of unconscious villains all around him. It wasn't long until all the fodder was dispatched and Aizawa and Yoshitsune were left to battle the leader of this raid and some monstrous creature. A ghost? This wasn't told to us? A secret boss? Perhaps. Nomu, Handjob said, and the creature pounced into action, descending down onto Aizawa with inhuman speed. A fist reared back to slam down on the underground hero. Aizawa's vision was blocked by the back of Yoshitsune as the samurai blocked the punch with the sheath of his sword. The ground behind the samurai exploded from the shockwave alone, a show of how immensely powerful the Nomu's physical strength was. Except Yoshitsune was unfazed. His hand didn't even twitch. Yoshitsune. Aizawa. I mean, no disrespect, but allow me to face this monstrosity alone. The teacher wanted to protest, but relented and nodded. He fell back, keeping away from the fight, but keeping an eye on the handyman in the back. Yoshitsune. So, beast, you're created to destroy and maim and kill? How ironic, so was I. Someone crashed down in the area. A violent chill as Yoshitsune kicked the beast back and then drew his blade. Horror inked into the plaza, the feeling of coldness and death leaking off of Yoshitsune's sword. Yoshitsune. I have made entire fields turn red with blood. You shall be nothing more than an addition to my bloody. The area was silent. The students and villains didn't even see what happened, or perhaps their brain couldn't register what happened. The Nomu fell apart, diced into nothing but a bloody mess on the ground before it erupted into ice crystals, shattering like glass. How-ho! Kirojiri appeared in a swirl of purple mist and pulled the handyman away, taking him to safety. The entire class, and even Aizawa, couldn't believe their eyes. That creature had such strength, yet this samurai defeated such a creature with no issue. Izuku had just made it back to the others, immediately catching Kenji, who threw himself at him, babbling about how cool Yoshitsune was. Izumi and the two set of twins had managed to only catch a glimpse of the decimation of the Nomu. The events following that was pretty tame. All Might arrived and helped detain all villains that were left behind. Yoshitsune fused back with Izuku, going back into the blade. Izuku smiled fondly at the sword while Kenji was checking on Tenya and Ochako. Yoshitsune. Izuku. The next time we meet them, you will need to be ready. I will up our training alongside Kenji and Minetta. Izuku. I understand. I'm glad the situation didn't get worse more than it had, but those villains and that monster. Yoshitsune. Do not worry about that for now. Let us focus on getting stronger alongside your friends. Izuku nodded and looked at Kenji and Minetta, the two now telling each other their experiences after the warp villains separated them. Minetta having subdued many villains on his own despite being trapped in the flood zone. Izuku, we'll be ready for whatever happens next.
Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey today. I hope you enjoyed exploring the fascinating what-if scenario of Deku. If you found this video entertaining and thought-provoking, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to me and inspires me to bring you more captivating content in the future. Stay tuned for more exciting what-ifs coming your way. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep embracing the power of imagination. Goodbye everyone.